A massive beam of light crashes down, shaking the ground. A young boy named Aladdin kneels on the floor. He asks a giant, human-like creature for answers about himself, but the creature says it can't. Instead, it offers to grant him one wish. The giant tells him countless blessings could be his if he just makes that wish. Nearby, a boy named Ali Baba is gathering crops for his master. Some men ask why he's working so hard. He explains he's saving up to achieve his dream of conquering a labyrinth. They laugh, telling him some dreams are impossible. As Ali Baba loads cargo, he catches Aladdin munching on his boss's watermelons. Furious, he grabs him. His boss calls out, asking if the cargo's ready. Ali Baba stammers, trying to block him, but a guard shoves him aside. The boss spots Aladdin devouring the fruit. Aladdin leaps onto the man, playfully wrestling him. Ali Baba yanks him off and apologizes, but the boss kicks him and declares he'll work without pay as punishment. That night, Ali Baba reaches into his bag of apples, starving only to find Aladdin inside, having eaten them all. Ali Baba mutters that if he can't clear a dungeon, he's doomed. Aladdin asks what a dungeon is. Ali Baba explains they're mysterious structures that appeared 14 years ago. Clearing one grants immense treasure and wealth, including magical Djinn vessels. Asks where to find one, is already asleep. The next morning, Ali Baba kicks Aladdin awake and heads out. Aladdin follows, asking about dungeons. Ali Baba points to one right in the city center, Aman, the sixth labyrinth, which appeared a decade ago. He vows to conquer it and others faster than anyone, aiming to become the world's richest man. At the market, Aladdin asks if Ali Baba needs money. He admits he needs a lot, and they daydream about what they'd buy. Aladdin bumps into a young woman, knocking her down. Ali Baba apologizes and offers to help carry her load, but she refuses. As she leaves, they notice chains on her legs. She's a slave. When she trips trying to hide them, Aladdin blows his flute, and the chains snap. The crowd gasps, gathering around. Their boss storms over, threatening to enslave Ali Baba for the debt. To prove his point, he beats other slaves. Aladdin steps in, demanding he stop. Guards grab them, but Aladdin plays his flute again. A giant hand erupts, knocking everyone out. Hiding afterward, Ali Baba asks about the flute. Aladdin says it's a Djinn named Ugo. Ali Baba wonders if Ugo could help him conquer dungeons. Meanwhile, Ali Baba's boss meets with the city's leader, Lord Jamil. Asked about the market incident, the boss brushes it off as not worth reporting. Ali Baba treats Aladdin to some beautiful girls and asks where he plans to go on his journey. Aladdin replies that he promised to help find other Djinn vessels, so he'll head to the dungeon. Ali Baba is happy to hear this, and decides to get himself a beautiful girl, but she turns out to be the opposite of what he expected. After leaving the pleasure house, Ali Baba's boss and the guard confront him, demanding payment for his debt. He has no money but promises to pay after clearing the dungeon. They all laugh at him. The boss gives him a choice: be arrested or work as his slave. The next day, the boss, Master Budel, orders Ali Baba to deliver a carriage of grape wine from Lord Jamil to the neighboring city's lord. Along the way, they see the slave from the market locked in a cage with others. Master Budel explains they're destined for the mines. As they travel, Master Budel rants about how slaves can never achieve anything more. He asks Ali Baba if he agrees, and Ali Baba nods along. Aladdin notices he's lying and warns him that if he keeps it up, no one will believe him. Suddenly, a giant desert creature called the Desert Hyacinth attacks, stopping their carriages. A child falls into the hyacinth, and the slave from the market tries to save them, but both get swallowed. Ali Baba is devastated, but Master Budel only cares about the wine, offering to pay the child's mother as compensation. Furious, Ali Baba punches Master Budel hard, sending him crashing into the sand. He then jumps into the hyacinth with a wine barrel, trying to pry its mouth open, but he's powerless. Aladdin plays his flute, summoning Ugo, who helps rescue the slave and baby. However, Ugo gets dragged into the hyacinth. Aladdin spreads his turban, loads it with wine barrels, and flies toward Ali Baba. Thinking he's about to die, Ali Baba is stunned. Aladdin hurls the wine at the hyacinth, forcing it to release Ugo and Ali Baba. As they fly off, Aladdin asks Ali Baba to be his friend, and together, they begin their adventure. They reach the dungeon entrance. Ali Baba asks Aladdin if he wants to back out, warning that no one who enters ever returns. Aladdin shoves him, and they both tumble through a dimensional rift. Ali Baba wakes up disoriented, realizing he's submerged in flammable water. He frantically searches for Aladdin, grabs him, and dashes out just before the water erupts in flames. Meanwhile, Lord Jamil decides to enter the dungeon. His advisor begs him to reconsider, but he's determined. He claims he's waited for the Djinn's arrival to fulfill his mission. As Ali Baba and Aladdin flee, a massive boulder rolls toward them. Aladdin blows his whistle, summoning Ugo, who swoops in and saves them just in time. Ali Baba notices Aladdin looks unwell. When asked, Aladdin insists he's fine, just hungry, but his growling stomach says otherwise. Ali Baba promises to find food, only to look down and see Aladdin gone, replaced by a baby ant. A giant green ant looms, swallowing Aladdin whole. Ali Baba yanks him free as a swarm of giant ants emerges, surrounding them. Realizing they're in an ant nest, Ali Baba draws his sword, slicing through them like rotten fruit. The ants melt together, forming a fire-breathing monster. Aladdin plays his flute, calling Ugo again. Ugo fights the monster but struggles. Aladdin uses his last strength to amplify Ugo's power with the flute. Empowered, Ugo hurls a fireball, vaporizing the monster and blasting a crater into the ground. As Aladdin collapses, he mutters that Ugo's strength will see them through. Ali Baba gives Aladdin water, and he falls into a deep sleep. Curious, Ali Baba tries the flute but gets no sound. He wonders if playing it drains energy and debates confessing his true reason for entering the dungeon. He also wants to learn more about Aladdin, who's risking so much for him. Footsteps approach. Ali Baba investigates and spots Lord Jamil with a guard. He questions why the Lord is he chasing them. The slave girl from the market appears, with Jamil behind her. Jamil approaches the sleeping Aladdin, calling him Magi, leaving Ali Baba confused. Jamil orders his guard to take Aladdin and tells Ali Baba to leave. Ali Baba refuses, blocking their path. Jamil commands the guard to kill him, but Ali Baba dodges and holds a knife to the guard's throat. Jamil admits he underestimated Ali Baba and offers him a job. He berates the guard as useless, stabbing him repeatedly, then kicks him aside. "What's your decision?" he asks Ali Baba. They reached a section of the dungeon with fire spouts. Ali Baba noticed writing on the wall. He read and translated it, revealing they needed to dance around the fire spouts. The Lord was impressed and rewarded him with coins. Ali Baba danced around the spouts and made it to the other side, then turned them off so the others could cross. But a massive flame engulfed him, and he vanished. Aladdin woke from his deep sleep and asked for Ali Baba. Lord Jamal told him he'd saved Aladdin and that Ali Baba had run off with his flute, but he vowed to find him. Jamal introduced his two slaves, Morgiana, from a dark continent, with a sharp sense of smell and powerful legs, and Goltus, who was incredibly strong. Jamal and Goltus left to scout the area, leaving Morgiana to watch Aladdin. Aladdin shapeshifted to make Morgiana laugh. She told him about her homeland and why it was called the Dark Continent. He asked if she could take him there someday, but she said it was impossible. She was a slave, and escaping Jamal would take more than just breaking her chains. When Aladdin asked about Ali Baba, she said he was dead. Just then, Ali Baba climbed down from the roof, claiming he'd been invisible. Jamal and Goltus faced a monster and rushed back for Aladdin's help, shocked to see Ali Baba. Ali Baba admitted he'd lied about the fire spouts and had found the real path. He and Aladdin flew off on their magic turban. Aladdin said goodbye to Morgiana, hoping they'd meet again once her chains were fully broken. Morgiana daydreamed for a moment but snapped back to reality, chasing them with her strong legs. She couldn't stop them, and Jamal kicked her, swearing to hunt them down. Ali Baba and Aladdin reached a door they believed was the true entrance to the treasure. They saw two handprints needed to unlock it. Placing their hands on it, they shouted, "Open sesame!" The door opened, revealing a vast city inside. Aladdin and Ali Baba realize the city is inside the dungeon. They spot a surge of fire burning over a building in the distance. Lord Jamil and his slaves notice it too. He asks Morgiana what's happening, but she can't answer, so he kicks her and calls her useless. As they fly over the city, Ali Baba notices it's empty. Aladdin tells him the place is called the Necropolis, located outside the Room of Fortitude, and that Ugo mentioned it to him. Ali Baba asks if Ugo can talk, and Aladdin replies he can only summon his body for now. Ali Baba tells Aladdin to introduce him to Ugo once they get his flute back, and Aladdin agrees. They head toward the fire and open a door in the building, finding various fake-looking treasures. Goltaz enters behind them and collapses, with Aladdin noticing severe cuts on his body. Jamila and Morgiana arrive, and Morgiana kicks Aladdin away. Ali Baba draws his sword and challenges them. Jamil taunts him, calling him a peasant, but Ali Baba retorts that status doesn't matter in the dungeon. Jamil tells him to shut up and insults him. Morgiana goes after Aladdin, but Ali Baba chases Heronly to be stopped by Jamil, who challenges him to a sword fight, blaming him for all his dungeon struggles. Ali Baba accepts, telling him to stop sulking since they're in the dungeon. Jamil is confident he'll win. He charges, swinging his sword, but Ali Baba dodges every strike effortlessly. Ali Baba counters, pointing out Jamil's sloppy swordplay. Beaten, Jamil calls for Morgiana's help. She rushes Ali Baba, but he dodges her kick, surprised by her speed. He pleads with her to stop obeying Jamil, saying no one will care if she abandons him. Here she could be free. He offers his hand, but she takes it only to throw him down. Jamil pats her head, then kicks Ali Baba while mocking him. He hands Morgiana his sword, ordering her to kill Ali Baba. As she raises the blade to stab him, Aladdin wakes up, points his staff, and turns the sword into butterflies. He checks on Ali Baba, asking if he's okay. Ali Baba warns him to stay away from Morgiana because she's dangerous. Aladdin asks Lord Jamil to return his flute, but Jamil refuses. He points his staff at Aladdin, and a swirl of butterflies envelops him. Morgiana charges at Jamil, but a barrier traps her. Lord Jamil recalls the prophecy his teacher told him about someone like Aladdin and demands that Aladdin choose him or Morgiana will destroy him. Morgiana breaks free and tries to kick Jamil, but a beam of light slams her against the wall. Trembling, Lord Jamil hands Aladdin back his flute and begs him to make him king, calling him a great person. Aladdin walks over to Ali Baba and tells him they should keep moving. Just as they're about to leave, a massive fire erupts from the room into the sky, and a Djinn appears. The Djinn looks at each of them, declares Ali Baba the king, and bows to Aladdin, calling him a magi. He introduces himself as Amon. Ugo emerges from the flute and communicates with Amon in sign language. Amon announces that the dungeon is cleared. Aladdin asks Amon what a magi is. Amon explains that a magi chooses kings and shares why they've appeared on Earth. Suddenly, an earthquake shakes the room. Amon warns that someone is trying to seal the exit. He conjures a beam of light and tells anyone who wants to leave to step into it. Aladdin and Ali Baba step in with their treasures, urging Morgiana to join them and leave Lord Jamil behind. Goltaz wakes up and tells Morgiana to abandon him and Jamil they've done too many bad things and return to her homeland. They escape with their treasures as the dungeon collapses. Outside, another magi tells his guard he's fine with the outcome, and they fly away. Ali Baba shares his plan to start a business in Sindria but needs to stop in Balbad first to tie up loose ends. Aladdin says he has no plans of his own. Ali Baba thanks him for helping clear the dungeon, admitting he couldn't have done it alone because he's a coward. Aladdin insists he's the bravest person he knows. Ali Baba suggests they travel to Sindria together for more adventures. There's still so much to see. Aladdin agrees to follow him. They get separated. Morgiana wakes up outside her city. Ali Baba wakes at the dungeon site with his treasures as townspeople cheer, and Aladdin is found sleeping in a field. Ali Baba's former master thanks him for returning the treasures and rewards him with fine wine and beautiful women, calling him master. Ali Baba wonders where Aladdin has been for the past 3 days. One of his servants informs him a kid is looking for him. He rushes out, thinking it's Aladdin, but it turns out to be Morgiana. Morgiana asks why he freed the slaves. He says it's what Aladdin would have wanted. She thanks him and Aladdin for giving her freedom and says she'll return to her homeland someday. Ali Baba sets out to find his friend Aladdin. Meanwhile, Aladdin dreams of asking a mysterious creature about his identity but gets no answer. He wakes up to a woman telling him Rook is pleased to see him refreshed. Confused, Aladdin asks what she means by Rook. She explains they are butterfly-shaped particles of light home to the Suland, that all souls eventually return to them. Aladdin says the Rook dwells within him, lending him power. A woman named Tuya interrupts, informing the elder that the scouting party has returned. The elder leaves to meet them. Aladdin follows outside as the group welcomes the scouts. Tuya introduces him to Dolge, the man who found him in the field. The elder asks what they discovered, and they report another village has been invaded. Dolge assures her their clan, the Kuga, has always avoided invasion and will fight back if attacked. The crowd cheers. Aladdin blows his whistle, summoning Ugo's hands to cheer with them, causing panic. They suspect he's a spy. Aladdin introduces himself, saying he's from a town called Kishan. A scout tells him it'd take 2 years to reach on foot, but Elder Baba reassures him he can join a caravan and get there in 2 weeks. That night, everyone celebrates happily. Aladdin asks the elder why they're always so joyful. She says they're family. He remembers the creature telling him he had no family, but the elder includes him in theirs. Touched, he hugs her. Later, Aladdin drinks milk straight from a horse's udder. Tuya scolds him, but Dolge stops her, grabbing Aladdin's head. Tuya asks why Dolge carries a sword, wishing they could live in peace forever instead of fighting. Aladdin climbs onto a running horse, and Dolge rushes to save him, but a woman on horseback catches him first. The woman introduced herself to the clan as Hakui Ren, the daughter of the first Ku emperor. Elder Baba also introduced herself. The woman explained she had come for diplomatic talks. Elder Baba told her how the Kuga clan was once the most powerful in the world but had since become the weakest. The emperor's daughter pleaded with them to join their empire so they could embark on a quest to unify the world. Tuya offered the emperor's daughter and her guards some horse milk. Ryosai, one of the guards, shoved her aside and declared that the Kuga clan was now under the Empire's rule and must submit quietly. Dodge tried to attack Ryosai, but the other guard stopped him. Elder Baba ordered Dodge to stand down, and the Emperor's daughter also commanded Ryosai to back off. Later that night, Ryosai questioned why the princess had stopped him from dealing with the Kuga people. She told him they needed a better strategy to convince them and would figure it out by morning. Aladdin flew in on his turban and asked to speak with the princess. She asked if he'd gotten the turban by clearing a dungeon, but he said he'd always had it. Aladdin begged her to abandon her plans of taking over the Ku clan and killing its people, as they were his family. She promised not to kill anyone, insisting she only wanted a unified empire. Aladdin left to speak with the old woman and the rest of the clan. Aladdin walked with Ugo and asked what he had told Aemon in the dungeon, but got no response. The old woman sent out her scouts to track down and bring back Tuya and the others who had been kidnapped. She warned them not to kill anyone, as it could spark a war. The scouts caught up with the caravan transporting Tuya and the others, overpowering them without bloodshed. Aladdin and the old woman went to find the scouts but couldn't locate them, so they decided to wait. While waiting, Aladdin asked the woman what a magi was. She told him a story about a man who came to Earth during a time of calamity, founded a country, and built a tower. He decided that anyone who passed the tower's trials would become a king to rule the land. She explained that this man was called a magi. Aladdin informed her that he'd spoken with the princess, who had promised no one would be killed. The scouts returned with the girl, having followed the old woman's warning to avoid fatalities. Elder Baba, the old woman, addressed the clan, announcing they would surrender to the Ku Empire to prevent war. Everyone gathered around a fire. Dodge gave Tuya a gift as the elder teased him to become a man. Elder Baba then left them. She reflected on her wish to see her great-grandchildren before dying. Suddenly, an arrow struck her, and she collapsed to the ground. Everyone gathers around Elder Baba and notices she's still breathing. Aladdin offers to take her back to the shelter. Ugo carries them and runs back. A guard informs Princess Huike that the Kuga clan has killed one of their soldiers. Ryosai urges the princess to act and attack the Kuga clan, but she refuses to believe it and decides to go talk to them herself. Ryosai confronts her, saying he can't tolerate her recklessness anymore. He was appointed by the emperor to protect her. The princess insists on traveling as an ordinary person, not royalty. Ryosai asks to take command of her army while she's gone, and she agrees, leaving with her other guard, Seishun. At the Kuga clan, the people revolt, demanding revenge against the Ku clan for Elder Baba and kidnapping their women. Dolge tries to calm them, reminding them of Elder Baba's warning to avoid war no matter what, but the crowd refuses and prepares to fight. They arm themselves and ride out. Aladdin is confused, knowing this will end in disaster. Then he hears Elder Baba's voice asking for his help. Meanwhile, Ryosai tells his soldiers that even after their provocations, the Kuga clan hasn't retaliated, but he won't wait for the princess to walk into their hands and spark a war. He admits, grinning, that he loves war. The princess can't believe the Kuga clan would attack after Aladdin's words. An arrow halts her group, and the clan surrounds them, weapons drawn. She insists she means no harm and only wants to talk. One clansman calls her a liar and slashes at her, grazing her. He's shocked when she doesn't flinch. She pleads for calm, but they refuse until Elder Baba appears. Scolding them, she bows to the princess, agreeing to submit the Kuga clan to the Ku and begging for protection. The princess notices Elder Baba is bleeding, but the elder says the village matters more than her life. The clansmen drop their weapons and bow. Back at the settlement, they mourn Elder Baba's death. Her spirit appears to Aladdin, telling him she now understands him. He's loved by the Rook, and is a magi, one who guides souls and shapes their world. Her spirit transforms into butterflies and fades away, leaving Aladdin in tears. On their return, the princess and Seishun run into Ryosai, leading the army to war. He confesses to kidnapping the Kuga women and attacking their elders. He plans to kill the princess and blame the Kuga clan. The soldiers shoot arrows at her, but the projectiles halt mid-air and are deflected. Senshui rushes at the soldiers using his powers, while the princess summons her own magic as she strides toward Ryosai to execute him. Back at the Kuga settlement, everyone pays their final respects to Elder Baba. Aladdin tells Ugo he's grateful to have met the Kuga clan because it helped him understand who he is. He notices the Rook, drawing his attention to a specific location. The princess conjures a massive tornado that obliterates Ryosai's army. After reverting to her normal form, she feels weak, unaware that more of Ryosai's forces remain. They capture her and Senshui. She grabs a sword, charges at Ryosai, and challenges him to a duel. But 4 arrows pierce her hands and legs, forcing her to collapse. Just as Ryosai is about to kill her, Aladdin and Ugo crash onto the scene, causing an explosion. Ugo smacks Ryosai unconscious. The princess asks Aladdin who he is, and he replies, "I'm a magi." When Aladdin touches her fan, a Djinn named Paimon appears. She introduces herself as the Djinn of maniacal love and chaos, created by King Solomon, and reveals she's been chosen to guide Princess Hakwe Ren. Ugo appears, and the two Djinn communicate in sign language. Paimon explains that Hakwe has been selected by the Ku Empire's magi to become king. The Ku Empire's magi, often called the High Priestess, summoned to see the king. On his way, he taunts Harkuryu, Hakwe's brother, telling him to clear a dungeon like his sister did if he wants to become king. Paimon asks Aladdin if he's chosen a king yet, since that's a magi's duty. Back at the settlement, Aladdin prepares to leave. The Kuga offer him Elder Baba's staff as a parting gift. He spots a sword resembling Goltus's and asks if they knew him. They speculate he might have been part of their clan. Aladdin recalls Ugo's words that traveling the world would help him discover his identity. After saying their goodbyes, he sets off on his journey to find Ali Baba. At a market, Morgiana helps her two friends Layla and Sasha restock their fruits. On their way home, she thanks them for taking her in 6 months ago when she jumped into their caravan, thinking they were headed to Balbad. Her friends tell her they'd love for her to stay because she's such a hard worker. She declines, saying she must travel to her homeland. When they reach town, they notice everyone looks upset. They ask a man what's wrong, and he explains that rogue thieves robbed the town, advising them to leave quickly. As they're leaving, Layla bumps into a slave trader traveling with his slaves. That night, Morgiana wonders when the chain marks on her leg will fade. She dreams of her childhood, when young Lord Jamila would mock and mistreat her. Waking up shaken, she realizes it was a nightmare. Layla offers her a remedy to help her sleep. Morgiana thanks her again for everything she and Sasha have done. Layla shares that she, too, was once helpless in the desert until Sasha and a mysterious boy found her just like Morgiana. She's alive because of their kindness. Sasha, who's been listening, playfully denies being so caring when they tease her. Morgiana learns she can't travel to Balbad because thieves have blocked the only path there. A man suggests another route, but she explains she can only catch a ship to her homeland from Balbad. She asks if they could travel if the thieves were defeated. Morgiana sneaks into the thieves' camp and politely asks them to leave. When they refuse, she beats them all up. The slave trader and the thieves' leader hear the commotion and look out a window. Impressed by Morgiana's fighting skills and realizing she's a finalis, the slave trader tells the leader he wants her. His crow attacks Morgiana, but she dodges, sustaining a minor scratch. The slave trader introduces himself. She recognizes him from the market. He orders his men to seize her, but before she can react, her vision blurs, and she collapses. The crow's scratch was poisoned. Morgiana has another nightmare, waking in a prison cell where she meets a little girl named Nadja. Nadja explains how a scary man kidnapped her from her parents. Morgiana tells her they'll be sold as slaves and explains what that means. Nadja bursts into tears, reminding Morgiana of her own auction and how she cried. She comforts the girl, promising to rescue her and her parents. Meanwhile, Sasha and Layla search everywhere for Morgiana, but can't find her. As they prepare to look further, an old man and armed guards block their path. Back in the cell, Morgiana notices Nadja burning with fever and calls for the slave trader. He checks on the girl and coldly decides to feed her to the desert hyenas. He ties up the little girl and suspends her in the air. He lets the hyena loose and slowly loosens the rope holding her up. Morgiana struggles to break free from her chains, but fails. In a vision, she sees Goltus telling her she can do it. The slave trader cuts the rope, and the girl plummets toward the hyenas. Morgiana leaps down to save her, shattering her chains in the process. She lets out a sonic scream that sends the hyenas fleeing. The slave trader releases saber-toothed tigers next. Morgiana tells the girl not to worry, then charges at the tigers, taking them all down. She lunges at the slave trader as he begs for mercy. She demands his prison key and frees all the slaves, surprised to find Aladdin among them. Aladdin reclaims his flute and summons Ugo. Layla, Sasa, the old man, and their hired mercenaries ride in to rescue Morgiana and the others, only to find they're already free. Aladdin is shocked to see Sosa and Layla are friends with Morgiana. The old man tells Morgiana they can now head to Balbad. Aladdin mentions he's also traveling there to search for Ali Baba, so they agree to go together. That night, everyone celebrates their freedom. Aladdin tells Morgiana they're all connected, even when apart, they'll never be alone. The next morning, they part ways. Morgiana and Aladdin set off for Balbad. Aladdin asks if he can call her Mor, since Morgiana is too long. She agrees. Some guys look exhausted from walking too long under the sun. They spot a man covered in jewelry sleeping in the shade and approach him. They catch a whiff of alcohol on him and figure he must have passed out drunk. On the way to Balbad, Aladdin asks Morgiana if she plans to take a ship back to her homeland. She says yes and mentions that seeing Ali Baba was also part of her plan. She thanks Aladdin and Ali Baba for giving her freedom. Just then, a nearly naked man covered only by a loincloth suddenly appears in front of them. Morgiana and Aladdin stare in shock, and Aladdin quickly lends him some clothes. The man introduces himself as Sin and explains he was robbed by thieves on his way to Balbad. Aladdin apologizes for his reaction, blaming the desert crossing for making him wary. Sin talks about discovering new lands and knowledge, and how adventures build confidence and friendships. Aladdin agrees. Morgiana says she can smell the sea nearby. They climb a hill and see the vast country of Balbad, bordered by the ocean. As they walk through Balbad's market, Sin explains how the country grew rich through maritime trade. He tells them the royal family, the Salujas, have ruled for generations. While touring the city, they notice graffiti reading, "Down with the monarchy." Sin explains the country fell into chaos after the last king died. He takes them to a hotel and offers to pay for their rooms, but guards stop him at the entrance. Another man intervenes, assuring Morgiana and Aladdin their rooms will be covered as promised. They thank him. Sin asks one of his friends, a finalis, if he's surprised to see another of their kind. Another friend jokes about Sin losing everything to thieves, and Sin confirms it. The man then tells Sin to start acting like a king because he's Sinbad, the king of Sindria. A hotel attendant shows Morgiana and Aladdin to their room. Aladdin jumps on the bed and asks where they can find a ship heading to the dark continent Morgiana's homeland. The attendant says it'll be tough to find one right now. Sin meets with Balbad's current ruler, Ahmad, and demands he reopen maritime trade with Sindria, as agreed with the previous king. Ahmad refuses, citing domestic issues. The hotel attendant explains how a group of thieves, called the Fog Troop, terrorizes Balbad whenever fog rolls in. They target the national treasury, noble houses, and trading centers, then redistribute their spoils to the people, who see them as heroic thieves. The ruler also explains this to Sinbad, and says the new leader of the Fog Troop is annoying. The attendant reveals to Morgiana and Aladdin that the Fog Troop leader's name is Ali Baba. The ruler states that because of the Fog Troop, trade cannot reopen, and anyone who wants to restart maritime trade must deal with them. Sinbad vows to take care of them. Aladdin assures Morgiana that it's a different Ali Baba. He gazes out the window and says he misses their Ali Baba. Ahmad tells his advisor that no matter what Sinbad does, reopening maritime trade will never happen. Sinbad invites Morgiana and Aladdin to lunch, introducing his friends Jafar and Masrur, noting Masrur is a finalis like Morgiana. Jafar asks why he made such a bold statement to the ruler. Sinbad replies that he owes the previous ruler a debt and can't let the kingdom fall into chaos. Aladdin summons Ugo, surprising Sinbad, who realizes Aladdin is a magi. Aladdin asks if Sinbad knows other magi. Sinbad reveals his true identity, but Aladdin doesn't recognize him. Sinbad Sinbad explains what magi are and how they wield the Rook's unlimited power. He pleads for Aladdin's help in eliminating the fog troop. After some thought, Aladdin and Morgiana agree, but only if Sinbad helps them find Ali Baba. Sinbad tries to convince Morgiana not to fight, but she refuses. They plan their attack strategy, trying to predict the fog troop's next target. Morgiana questions if they're doing the right thing since the people love the fog troop. Sinbad argues that their robberies can't be justified. They split into two groups to cover possible attack locations. Sinbad and Masrur are ambushed by starving peasants. Sinbad advises them to withhold taxes if the nobles don't deserve them. Meanwhile, at Morgiana, Aladdin, and Jafar's location, the fog troop attacks using a red mist to overpower the guards. Jafar fights back but is overwhelmed by magic. Morgiana joins but is also restrained. Aladdin summons Ugo to block their escape. A masked thief steps forward to handle the situation, removing his mask to reveal himself as Ali Baba, shocking Aladdin. Ali Baba tells Aladdin to call Ugo back so he and his friends can escape. Aladdin does as asked and explains he came to Balbad to find Ali Baba so they could travel the world together, as promised. Ali Baba says he can't keep that promise anymore and walks away. The army chases Ali Baba and the thieves, but he summons Aman using his knife. They report to Sinbad that the leader of the fog troop is a dungeon capturer, the one Aladdin has been searching for. At the fog troop hideout, the men who robbed Sinbad arrive to join the group. Ali Baba warns them not to steal for personal gain but for the slums, threatening death if they disobey. Ali Baba questions his friend Kasim about why he's recruiting so many strangers, joking that it looks like he's starting a war. Some kids run up to Ali Baba, happily telling him they now eat twice a day thanks to him. Kasim reminds him of their struggles growing up in the slums and begs him not to leave, and enters his room, thinking he hears footsteps but dismisses it as his imagination. As he lies down, Morgiana suddenly appears, grabbing and silencing him. She demands to know why he joined thieves when he was searching for Aladdin just half a year ago. He warns her to leave before she gets killed, but she decides to drag him to Aladdin. Ali Baba yells as she leaps across rooftops with him. The new thieves plan to sell stolen goods to afford shelter without the fog troop's help. One complains they'll only get paper money, not gold or silver. Jafar explains to Sinbad that the Ku Empire is using military pressure to force other nations to trade with their paper currency. They've convinced King Ahmad to accept it, destabilizing Balbad's economy. Jafar suggests contacting their homeland. Sinbad asks about Aladdin and is told he's depressed in his room. Aladdin stares at the moon, confiding in his flute about his goals traveling to the Dark Continent, learning from Sinbad before collapsing, exhausted. Morgiana throws Ali Baba into the room. Ali Baba and Aladdin stare at each other, exchanging awkward greetings. Morgiana cuts in, demanding Ali Baba explain the fog troop's role in the country's chaos. Aladdin asks her to hold off and let them catch up first. Aladdin admits he was supposed to capture the fog troop, but never expected Ali Baba to be with them. He asks why he joined, and Ali Baba begins telling the story of Kasim and their childhood. He tells the story of how he and Kasim used to fight a lot as kids, but that never stopped them from being friends and playing together. Even though times were tough back then, his mother, just a prostitute in the slum, cared for him and loved him. But it was different for Kasim and his sister. Their father never cared about them and always abused them. One day, Kasim's father disappeared and never came back. Ali Baba's mother took them in and looked after them. They lived together until one day, his mother got sick and passed away. To support them, Kasim decided to join a gang of thieves. Ali Baba asked if he could come along, but Kasim refused, saying the job wasn't right for him. One day, the king of Balbad visited the slum and demanded to see Ali Baba. The king revealed that he was his father and wanted him to live in the palace. Ali Baba told Kasim, but Kasim just shrugged it off, saying he'd always suspected Ali Baba was different anyway. Angry, Ali Baba hit him. That same day, he left for the palace, where they trained and educated him. For 3 years, Ali Baba never returned to the slum until one day. He sneaked out to visit, but when he got there, the slum was gone. He ran into Qasim, and the two caught up over drinks. Qasim asked how he'd slipped out of the palace, and Ali Baba told him. Qasim explained that the slum had been destroyed for city redevelopment. Ali Baba went back to the palace, unaware that Qasim had ordered his men to quietly follow him. Later, the king fell ill and, on his deathbed, told Ali Baba he would inherit the kingdom. That same night, Qasim and his gang broke into the palace through the tunnels Ali Baba had mentioned, stealing the royal treasure. They knocked Ali Baba out and set the palace on fire. Later, someone told Qasim that Ali Baba had been kidnapped. Qasim ordered his men to gather and go get him back. Ali Baba explains that after regaining consciousness, he was informed of the king's death, which drove him to flee Balbad and struggle to survive. He admits he always dreamed of conquering a dungeon but couldn't until meeting Aladdin. Meanwhile, Sinbad and his friends listen in from outside. Morgiana questions why Ali Baba joined the fog troop, given that Qasim betrayed him. Ali Baba replies that after clearing the dungeon, he returned to Balbad to fix his mistakes only to find the country in ruins. When he asked locals what happened, they explained chaos had erupted after the king's death, with a gang gang of thieves terrorizing the nation. Just then, the fog troop attacked, and Ali Baba was shocked to see Qasim leading them. Initially blaming Qasim for Balbad's downfall, Ali Baba later realized the government was at fault after their conversation. Qasim took him to Mariam's grave, revealing that a pandemic had ravaged the slums a year after Ali Baba left, killing many, including Mariam. The government ignored them, offering no aid, and burned the slum afterward. Furious, Ali Baba confronted Qasim for lying years earlier when he claimed everyone was fine. Qasim then begged him to join the fog troop as their leader. Ali Baba tells Aladdin that despite Qasim's past betrayal, he still considers him family, which is why he joined. He plans to reveal his identity and confront King Ahmad when the time comes. Aladdin warns him not to let anger cloud his judgment, but Ali Baba grows agitated, unsure what to do. Aladdin bonks him with his staff to calm him down and offers to help solve the country's problems and even aid his friends. Suddenly, Qasim and his gang crash through the roof. Some attack Sinbad's group but fail. Qasim declares they've come to rescue Ali Baba and capture Sinbad. As they try to escape, Sinbad's crew blocks them, with Masra weakening the troop using his powerful kicks. Sinbad demands Qasim's surrender, but Qasim attacks with his magic sword useless against Sinbad, who restrains him. Sinbad taunts Ali Baba to fight, but he hesitates. Sinbad then insults the fog troop, calling them slum dwellers and urging them to abandon Ali Baba, a prince who's nothing like them. Enraged, Ali Baba draws his weapon, summoning Amun's power, and attacks Sinbad, who dodges and overpowers him. Qasim shouts at Sinbad to stay out of Balbad's affairs, since it's not his country. Sinbad declares he wants to join the fog troop and fight Balbad's government. Jafar is shocked and questions his choice. Sinbad asks why Jafar is so cold-hearted and blind to the country's struggles, saying he'd rather stand with the slums than aid the clueless king. Sinbad approaches Ali Baba and asks to join, but Ali Baba refuses, accusing him of trickery. Sinbad insists he's trying to fix the world's injustices, including Balbad's. Qasim cuts in, warning Ali Baba not to trust him, claiming Sinbad would never care for them and would let them starve. This angers Jafar, who tries to strike Qasim, but Sinbad stops him by grabbing the weapon. Ali Baba reluctantly agrees to let Sinbad join. Sinbad urges Ali Baba to march to the royal palace and confront King Ahmad to reclaim the throne, now that the people support him. He promises to back Ali Baba's claim as a friend of his late father. The next day, an announcement spreads, calling citizens to gather at the palace to witness Ahmad and Ali Baba debate the country's future. Ali Baba is stunned by the huge turnout. Sinbad says it proves the people believe in him. Ali Baba pleads with Ahmad to end the citizens' suffering, vowing to disband the fog troop if he does. Ahmad orders his arrest, disowning him as a brother and sparing him only for Sinbad's sake. He calls the citizens maggots, enraging Ali Baba, who shouts that Ahmad is unfit to rule. Someone interrupts, demanding to know what's happening. Outside, Aladdin worries if Ali Baba is okay. Morgiana reassures him, saying the crowd's support will protect him. A strange man passes Aladdin, radiating eerie energy. The man who enters the palace reveals his face and introduces himself as Markio, the banker, the financial advisor of the country's treasury. Sinbad also introduces himself and asks if they've met before. Judal, the man who walked past Aladdin earlier, steps into the palace and immediately recognizes Sinbad, calling him Bonehead. He announces that he's a priest of the Ku Empire and is in Balbad to discuss business. King Ahmad informs Sinbad that reopening their maritime trade is no longer possible. He's handed Balbad's trading rights to the Ku Empire, meaning Sinbad can't trade with any country not approved by them. He explains that the banker advised him to take measures to improve Balbad's economy. The banker confirms this and asks if Sinbad would also let bankers take charge of his country. Aladdin shouts at Ahmad, demanding he promise to help the suffering people. Ahmad coldly replies that he doesn't speak to slum people, which enrages Ali Baba, who yells back at him. That night, the crowd is anxious to hear the outcome of the negotiations between Ahmad and Ali Baba. Ali Baba looks dejected, the talks failed, and Ahmad will only speak to Sinbad. Aladdin comforts him, pointing out the voices of the people outside demanding answers. He reminds Ali Baba that he's already given them hope, and that's enough. Morgiana asks what they'll tell the crowd. Jafar arrives and informs them that Sinbad is about to make an announcement. Sinbad calls Ali Baba to join him before addressing the people. He announces that negotiations have completely broken down, and war with the Imperial Army is now inevitable. The crowd murmurs in despair, fearing they're doomed without Qasim and his group. Sinbad reassures them as long as they keep fighting poverty and supporting their families, they're not lost. He promises to stand with them, and even offers refuge in his country if Balbad exiles them. The people sigh in relief. Judal swoops in on a turban, declaring he's here to meet Sinbad. Sinbad asks if he represents Ahmad or the Ku Empire. Judal says neither he wants to team up with Sinbad to take over the world. Aladdin asks Jafar who the man is, and Jafar identifies him as Judal, another magi like Aladdin. Judal notices Aladdin, sensing strange rook around him. Sinbad confirms he's also a magi. Judal laughs, calling him a little shrimp, and demands his name. He pretends to shake Aladdin's hand, but instead smacks him in the face. Judal asks Sinbad if he plans to team up with the little magi, but Sinbad says they met by chance. chance. Judel then asks who Aladdin's king candidate is. Getting no answer, he uses his magic to search and finds Ali Baba. He mocks him as pathetic for yelling in the palace earlier. Aladdin defends Ali Baba, shouting that he's not pathetic for fighting for the people, even if he fails. Judel pulls out a small staff and blasts Ali Baba. Aladdin summons his own staff and challenges Judel to a fight. Sinbad orders them to stop, but Judel ignores him, saying Sinbad can't interfere without a metal vessel. Masrur tries to intervene but fails. Judel fires magic at Aladdin, but it has no effect. He suggests a magic duel instead. Aladdin, confused, lets him demonstrate. Judel summons a raging lightning bolt, thinking he's won, but Ugo appears, shielding Aladdin. Judel isn't done. He magically pulls water from Balbad's rivers, freezing it into spears and raining them down on everyone. Ugo dodges and slams Judel into the ground. Judel retaliates by hurling ice spears at Aladdin, but Ugo takes the hit instead. As Ugo leaks Magoy, Aladdin cries, demanding to know why Judel is doing this. Judel shrugs. She was bored and wanted to test his power. He fires another lightning bolt, but Morgiana yanks Aladdin to safety. Ali Baba attacks with his knife, but can't pierce Judel's invisible barrier until his weapon finally breaks through, cutting Judel's face. Judel blasts him back into the ice. Sinbad yells at Judel to stop, but he refuses. Sinbad rushes him, landing powerful punches. Judel retaliates by impaling Ugo with a massive ice spear. Thinking he's won, Judel smirks, but Ugo smashes his hands and flings him to the ground, leaving him motionless. Ugo generates a massive energy surge with his hands. Sinbad realizes the devastation it'll cause and yells for everyone to evacuate. Ugo blasts Judel with the energy, triggering an explosion that shakes the area. Aladdin thanks Morgiana for saving him, and Ash confirms no one was hurt thanks to Sinbad's warning. Everyone's confused about Ugo's sudden solo attack. Then, a group arrives on a magic carpet, shocking the crowd. Sinbad recognizes them as Ku Empire agents here for Judel. Their princess orders her aide to heal Judel while she prepares to battle Ugo. She notices Ugo still aggressive and summons her water magic. Ugo lunges, but she counters and defeats him swiftly. Aladdin steps in, explaining Judel attacked first, and Ugo was just protecting them. The princess realizes Aladdin's Ugo's master and challenges him. She commands her monstrous guards to wipe out everyone else while she fights Aladdin. The creatures attack, overwhelming Masrur, Morgiana, and Ali Baba. As the princess faces Aladdin, she starts transforming with magic. Sinbad intervenes, grabbing her hand to stop it. He introduces himself as Sinbad, king of Sindria. Stunned, she listens as he argues leaders shouldn't fight publicly and urges both sides to stand down. He adds, Ugo's alive, Djinn don't die easily. Sinbad explains his presence and invites her to talk elsewhere. The princess calls off her squad and leaves. Ali Baba sighs in relief, checking for injuries. Aladdin notices Ugo's mark vanished from his flute and realizes he must recharge him. Sinbad and Jafar tend to the wounded, with Morgiana helping. They praise her kindness and hard work, though she's frustrated she couldn't protect Aladdin and Ali Baba. Later, Ali Baba checks his wounds in his room when Morgiana barges in Onak and sees him naked. Both freeze in shock. She helps bandage him, and he asks about Aladdin. She says he wanted solitude. Ali Baba worries Aladdin's powers always drain him. Suddenly, shouts for help outside reveal Aladdin's collapsed into a coma. Sinbad orders them to remove his flute. Jafar warns Aladdin's condition is critical, he's dangerously weak. Sinbad explains he poured all his power into the flute to revive Ugo. Ali Baba notices Aladdin looks worse than last time. Sinbad sees Ugo's mark still missing and tells everyone to let Aladdin rest. Some members of the Fog Troop confront Ali Baba, demanding to know what will happen to the slum and their group. He's at a loss for words, but Sinbad steps in, assuring them everything is under control, as promised. He also tells them he's called for backup from Sindria and that they should tend to their wounded and get ready for its arrival. Ali Baba beats himself up for failing to reassure the group or help them. He wonders where Qasim Ishi would have handled it better. Just then, someone runs up to him in a panic, warning that the army is advancing on them. Ali Baba soon realizes it's General Barkak, the man who trained him in swordsmanship back at the palace along with Savmad, the deputy king. Barkak explains that Savmad has something important to say, which is why they've come. Sinbad arrives and asks Savmad what's going on. Savmad admits he was the palace mole, leaking information to the Fog Troop. He claims he did it because he wanted Ali Baba to save the country and stop King Ahmad. Sinbad presses him on why he wants to stop Ahmad. Savmad breaks down, saying he's terrified of what the king is doing to Balbad. General Barkak then lays out how the country's downfall began. A banker manipulated Ahmad into adopting a paper currency called the Fuan. Before they knew it, their economy was in ruins, completely dependent on the Fuan. Barkak continues, explaining how the country's debt ballooned, forcing them to take out new loans to pay off old ones. Eventually, all their trade rights were seized as collateral. Now, with nothing left, the king plans to use the citizens themselves as collateral, selling them to other empires and turning Balbad into a nation of slaves. Morgiana asks Ahmad if he's here to ask for their help in stopping Ahmad. He confirms it. She then urges Ali Baba to let them step in and end this madness once and for all. The deputy king informs them that in 5 days, there will be a ceremony ceremony where King Ahmad will marry a princess from the Ku Empire, and on that same day, they plan to sign a contract using the people of Balbad as collateral. He begs Ali Baba to take action before then. Sinbad volunteers to reach out to the allies of Sindria and convince them to formally object to Balbad's government. General Barkak tells the deputy king it's time to leave. Ali Baba visits Aladdin, who is still unconscious in bed. He talks to him about what his brother Sabmad said and how he asked for their help to save the country. Even though Aladdin has always believed in him, Ali Baba doubts whether he can truly be a hero like King Sinbad, who has so many abilities. Sinbad and his men discuss their next steps. Sinbad points out that even if they stop slavery, it won't fix the country's current mess. He believes Balbad needs a fresh start with a ruler who cares for the people like Ali Baba, but he still has doubts about him. Morgiana bursts in and confronts Sinbad for questioning Ali Baba. She insists that even if Ali Baba lacks confidence sometimes, no one is better suited to help the country. At the palace, the banker flatters King Ahmad about the wedding and contract signing, convincing him the kingdom will thrive under the Ku Empire. Sinbad gathers everyone and shares his findings. He reveals that Judal, the Magi, is behind the Ku Empire's rapid rise from a small town to a military superpower. He explains how Magi can create dungeons and guide people through them, adding that Judal has an insatiable hunger for conquest and Balbad is next. Sinbad confirms that Judal has already manipulated King Ahmad into selling his people's rights, dooming the country. Morgiana says she's heard enough and leaves, with Aladdin following, but Sinbad asks him to stay for a private talk. Sinbad tells Aladdin that his father once mentioned having an exceptional son, and he's sure it was Ali Baba. He says they're alike in some ways, but Ali Baba insists Sinbad is far greater. Sinbad warns that Balbad will collapse under Ahmad's rule, so Ali Baba must become king. Ali Baba panics and refuses, feeling unprepared, but Sinbad promises full support of an offering to train him in mastering his weapons abilities. He reminds Ali Baba that Morgiana, the Fog Troop, and everyone else believe in him and are waiting for him to fulfill his destiny. Later, as Ali Baba walks through town, a boy recognizes him and shouts his name. The crowd gathers, demanding answers about his meeting with the king and pleading for his help. Someone pulls him off a bridge, and he lands in a boat where he looks up to see Qasim. Qasim tells him he disappeared because he doesn't want Sinbad to look down on him. He says he knows Ahmad is planning to sell the citizens as slaves. He suggests they arm the people and lead them to attack the government. He introduces Ali Baba to a man who's been supplying them with magical weapons and other arms, explaining that the man will provide all the weapons they need for the war, and they'll attack in 2 days. Ali Baba opposes the plan, stressing that innocent lives will be lost if they attack, because King Ahmad will have the Ku Empire's backing. Qasim says he doesn't care as long as they win. Ali Baba yells at him to stop the plan and let him save the country without bloodshed. Qasim punches him hard, calls him useless, and warns him not to try stopping him. Ali Baba begs Sinbad to teach him how to master his Djinn so he can do everything possible to save the country. Sinbad agrees. They start training. Sinbad explains an ability called Djinn Equip, where they merge their Djinn into their bodies, but due to limited time, he'll teach Ali Baba the Djinn Weapon Equip, instead transforming his weapon into his Djinn's weapon. Ali Baba tries but tires quickly. Sinbad tells his men Ali Baba is a promising student. Jafar reports intel that the Shadow is heading for Balbad. Sinbad says he'll start making his moves too, beginning with a talk with the Ku Empire's princess. Morgiana finds Ali Baba sitting by Aladdin's sickbed. He says he blames himself for what happened to Aladdin and Ugo. Morgiana reassures him that Aladdin would never regret helping him because he respects him. Morgiana wonders why Ali Baba is acting so strange, and remembers the last time he acted this way, he disappeared afterward. She figures he might be planning to do the same. Ali Baba disguises himself, sneaks into the palace, removes his mask, announces himself, and orders the guards to open the gate. Ali Baba tells the guards he needs to speak with the king, but they refuse, saying they won't let the leader of the Fog Troop into the palace. The crowd outside starts throwing stones and demands they open the gates. Ali Baba signals them to stop and warns the guards to open up or he'll let the crowd keep pelting them. The guards finally comply. Ali Baba draws his weapon, raises it, and flames erupt, engulfing him. He reassures the people he'll save the country. The Ku princess asks her assistant about Judal's recovery. The assistant says it'll take time. She grumbles about her political marriage, wishing she could have been a warrior instead, especially since she just captured a dungeon and got a metal vessel. The assistant reminds her the marriage is necessary to control Balbad, a trade hub vital to their empire. She daydreams about marrying Sinbad but hopes her future husband is at least good looking, since tradition won't let her see him beforehand. King Ahmad receives mutated creatures as wedding gifts from the Ku Empire. A guard bursts in, warning of an intruder, Ali Baba. The banker orders the largest creature to kill him. It transforms into a monstrous elephant and attacks. Ali Baba dodges and strikes back. Abid notices Ali Baba's metal vessel, shocked to learn he's a dungeon capturer. Ali Baba tries repeatedly to use the Djinn equip Sinbad taught him, but fails. The elephant overpowers him, knocking him out. As he lies helpless, visions flood his mind, people crying for help, memories of the past. In the haze, Aladdin appears, offering a hand and calling him a hero. Ali Baba wakes up, strikes the monster, and finally activates his Djinn equip. He slices the elephant in half. The banker orders the remaining creatures to attack. Ali Baba cuts through them, but they regenerate. Just as he prepares a final strike, Morgiana leaps into the fray. She tells him she's here to help, Morgiana insists she can handle the creature, she's stronger than she looks, and urges Ali Baba to go. She hurls him toward the palace. The creatures surround her, their leader taunting that she can't win. Morgiana smirks, saying they haven't seen her best, and braces for battle. Meanwhile, Jafar informs Sinbad that Ali Baba has stormed the palace. Sinbad admits this might mess up their political plans, but figures there's still a way he'll head to the palace himself. Ali Baba charges inside, sword ready, but another mutated creature blocks him. He attacks, but Amon's sword vanishes out of Magoi. Remembering Sinbad's training, he conjures flames to recharge. His metal vessel reforms into Amon's sword, and he cleaves the creature in two. Morgiana fights the creatures outside the palace, but her attacks don't seem to be effective. She decides to take them all out at once, just like Masrur once did. She leaps around, gathering energy, then strikes the creatures hard, causing an explosion. The crowd outside looks stunned. Ali Baba storms into the throne room and shouts at Ahmad that he's here to end things. The banker tells the king that Ali Baba has used up his Mogwai and isn't much of a threat. Ali Baba responds that he won't need either, doesn't plan to fight the guards, who are citizens of Balbad. Ahmad orders his guards to kill him, but they instead pin him down with their spears. Sahmad yells at the guards to let Ali Baba go. He grabs the king's staff and, as deputy king, commands them not to interfere in Ali Baba and the king's conversation. The guards release Ali Baba, who tells Ahmad he's here to change the country's status quo. The princess asks her assistant about the noise coming from the palace. He replies that they might be inspecting the wedding gifts or preparing for the ceremony the next day. Morgiana finishes off the remaining creatures and hopes Ali Baba succeeds in his mission at the palace. Inside the palace, Sahmad reveals Ahmad's plan to sell the citizens into slavery. Ahmad accuses him of trying to steal the throne and taunts him, calling him a coward who wouldn't dare face the guards or the people. Ali Baba steps in and yells at Ahmad to stop. He defends Sahmad, saying he's no coward. He bravely entered the fog troop to warn Ali Baba about the country's situation and even gave orders to the guards earlier. Ahmad grabs a sword from a guard and attacks Ali Baba, but Ali Baba disarms him and punches him in the face, knocking him down. Ahmad orders the guards to attack, but they ignore him. Ali Baba demands that Ahmad give up his kingship and renounce the throne for the harm he's caused the country. The princess enters and asks what's going on. Meanwhile, some thieves decide to rob Sinbad before the country collapses. One suggests the jewelry they stole might actually be metal vessels. They notice glowing particles in the sky as rooks gather around Ali Baba and Judal. Back at the palace, the princess introduces herself, saying she's there to marry the king. She asks about his identity since she's never seen him before. Disappointed by Ahmad, she still plans to proceed. The banker informs her that Ahmad is no longer king due to a coup, and they must choose a new ruler. The princess insists her mission is to marry whoever is king, and sign the treaty. Nothing will change that. Sahmad refuses the throne, admitting he's unfit to rule. He suggests Aladdin is the best candidate, but Aladdin also declines, shocking everyone. Aladdin blames himself for the previous king's death, saying his actions led to it, and he's too irresponsible. He begs the princess to cancel the wedding and treaty, arguing the country no longer needs a monarchy but a people's republic where citizens choose their own leaders. He vows to dedicate himself to this cause. Just then, King Sinbad arrives with officials from the Seven Seas Alliance. He introduces them as directors from allied nations, saying he brought them to recommend Ali Baba as king, but it seems that's no longer necessary. The princess tells Ali Baba a people's republic isn't possible because Balbad sold its rights to the Ku Empire. Ali Baba argues the old treaties should be voided since they're building a new country. The princess warns the emperor might resort to violence. Ali Baba urges them to reconsider, proposing they repay the Ku Empire through profits from maritime trade. The princess disagrees, but Sinbad steps in and explains that Balbad is joining the Seven Sea Alliance, which prohibits invasions against its members. Ali Baba adds that Balbad and Sindria have been longtime allies, a fact confirmed by the princess's assistant. The princess then suggests King Sinbad visit the Ku Empire to personally explain this to the emperor, and he agrees. As she leaves, she privately thinks how relieved she is not to marry Ahmad. Sinbad admires Ali Baba's bravery in confronting the Ku Empire and finding a peaceful resolution. Everyone in the room celebrates. On her way back, the princess eagerly looks forward to telling her father about Balbad abolishing its monarchy. She's also excited at the prospect of Sinbad's upcoming visit. Sinbad asks Ali Baba about their next steps. Ali Baba replies that they need to form a temporary government and gather representatives from the people to establish a council. Barkak mentions the public will likely demand Ahmad's execution, but Ali Baba insists they'll rewrite the penal codes instead. He urges everyone to work together to rebuild Balbad step by step. Bankers interrupt, warning that democracies often fail when power-hungry individuals rise. A guard then informs Ali Baba the citizens are anxious for news. Ali Baba announces to the crowd that Ahmad has stepped down, and no successor will take the throne. Balbad is becoming a republic. Dark Rook swirls around the banker and an arms dealer, while a bright Rook bursts from Aladdin, transforming into a giant bird. Ali Baba continues rallying the people, encouraging unity and resilience as they transition to a republic. The crowd cheers enthusiastically. Ali Baba silently vows to stay in Balbad for now, delaying his promised adventures with Aladdin. Meanwhile, the arms dealer releases Dark Rook as Qasim and his gang advance toward the palace, preparing to attack. Just as the people were celebrating, Ali Baba spotted Qasim and his gang moving through the crowd toward the palace. Someone approached Qasim and told him the country no longer had a king. Ali Baba had declared it a people's republic. Qasim took in the joyous atmosphere but seethed, realizing Ali Baba had outmaneuvered him. He marched to the palace, furious, and rallied the people with a fiery speech. He reminded them how the monarchy had exploited them, bleeding them dry with taxes and letting their families starve. Even if the crown was gone, he declared, the royals had to pay for their crimes. One of his gang members used her powers to sway the crowd, and soon, the people roared in agreement, joining Qasim's rage. He urged them to rise up and punish the nobles, the military, and anyone who'd oppressed them. The arms dealer grinned, seeing his chance to profit from the chaos. Ali Baba and the others were stunned by the people's sudden turn. Nearby, Jafar called out for Aladdin, fearing the worst. Meanwhile, Aladdin found himself in a strange temple. Hearing a voice call to him, he saw Ugo's head and asked if he was dead. Ugo explained his body still lived on the surface, only his consciousness was here. Back above, the arms dealer stole the banker's rook, spreading it like a dark veil over the sky. Qasim ordered the mob to storm the palace and purge the city of the powerful. Ugo warned Aladdin that people were tampering with fate's flow, risking disaster. He described how fate worked, using Aladdin's journey and the Djinn he'd met as examples. Messing with it would corrupt everything, turning Rook black. Ugo revealed he'd saved Aladdin from death when Judal attacked, draining his last Magoi to do so. The Magoi transfer failed because Ugo wasn't his Djinn. Showing the chaos above, Ugo urged Aladdin to return and set fate right, but first, he had to seek King Solomon's wisdom. With a final goodbye, Ugo sent Aladdin through the gates. Disoriented, Aladdin heard a voice telling him to journey through the world's truths and be reborn. Back at the palace, Jafar and Masroor left Aladdin in a woman's care to join the fight. The mob overwhelmed the guards, and Deputy King Savmad panicked, begging Ali Baba for orders. Ali Baba split the military half to defend the gates, half to confront Qasim. Qasim's gang broke into the palace but was cut off by Ali Baba, who trapped them in a ring of fire. He demanded to know why Qasim kept pushing for bloodshed after the monarchy's end. Qasim sneered he'd never wanted this half measure and attacked. Ali Baba dodged, but a blow dazed him. The gang's weapon pinned him down, and Qasim swung for the kill. At the last second, Ali Baba summoned Ayman's sword, shattered their weapon, and held the blade to Qasim's throat. Call it off, he ordered. Qasim spat back, kill me or get out of my way. Ali Baba couldn't do it. He pleaded instead. Qasim ignored him, walking away as his gang fell. Desperate, he activated his weapon's full power, ignoring the arms dealer's warnings. The other weapons fused into him, and he transformed into a monstrous black demon, soaring into the sky. The demon unleashes his powers on the guards, vaporizing them. The arms dealer watches, thrilled as they finally transform a Djinn using Dark Rook. Morgiana shouts at Ali Baba to snap out of it, or everyone will die. She attacks the monster, kicking it in the head and knocking it down. She urges Ali Baba, still in shock, to use his sword. The demon swings at him, but Ali Baba slices off one of its hands. Morgiana yells for him to strike again, but the demon summons Dark Rook and regenerates a new hand. The arms dealer explains that as long as Dark Rook exists, the Black Djinn can heal endlessly, and Dark Rook is born from human hatred and bitterness. The demon grows larger. Morgiana charges again, but the demon hurls her hundreds of meters away with telekinesis. It prepares to strike the former king and his deputy. Ali Baba rushes in, and Sinbad leaps onto the demon, driving his hand into its head. He begs Ali Baba to finish it before it wipes out the monarchy and sparks a bloody revolution. The demon stabs its fingers into Sinbad's body, but he keeps urging Ali Baba to kill it and create a bloodless revolution instead. Ali Baba powers up his weapon and charges furiously. He thrusts his blade into the demon, but the dark root coating its body blocks the attack. He summons more power from Ayman, pushing harder until he spots Qasim trapped inside the demon's core and freezes. The demon flings Sinbad away. Sinbad notices the demon's Magoi is drained and tells Ali Baba to pour all his strength into one final strike. Ali Baba tries to power up but keeps failing. The military intervenes, attacking the monster. Seeing this, Ali Baba pulls himself together, with Sinbad's help, and charges with everything he's got, but Judal stops him mid-strike, slamming him to the ground. Judal questions the arms dealer's obsession with killing Ali Baba. The dealer apologizes for interrupting Judal's recovery, but calls Ali Baba a nuisance, disrupting his plans. Ali Baba wonders how to stop them. His Djinn gear is useless, and he's almost out of Magoi. Meanwhile, Jafar and Masroor protect the townspeople. Masroor suggests heading to the palace, but Jafar insists on helping civilians. The thieves search for Sinbad to return his stolen metal vessel. Just as hope seems lost, Jafar spots a bright light speeding toward them. Aladdin, riding in. The arms dealer tells Judal he can claim the Black Djinn by linking to it. He connects and takes control. Judal restrains Sinbad, promising not to kill him, then turns to Alibaba, declaring his death. Judel morphs the demon into a colossal beast, raining attacks. Morgiana saves Alibaba, yelling to run. He begs her to throw him at Judel, and the monster he's gathered his last strength. Morgiana warns it might kill him, but he insists. She hurls him, but Judel effortlessly deflects him. The demon strikes. Alibaba blocks with Amon's sword, shattering it. He demands Morgiana throw him again, but Judel repels him once more. Aladdin arrives, offering to be Alibaba's strength. Judel taunts him to summon his Djinn, boasting he won't lose now. Aladdin says Ugo is gone, but left his power behind. He conjures a giant Ugo-shaped form with white rook. The black Djinn attacks, but Aladdin vaporizes it. Aladdin tells Morgiana to take Sinbad into the city he has people to meet. His strike barely affects Judel. Aladdin admits he can't fight Judel head-on. His power is incomplete. He asks Alibaba for his strength, but Alibaba has no sword or Magoi left. Aladdin tells him to look around white. Rook clears the people's minds. Their collective spirit will fuel the fight. Alibaba summons Solomon's wisdom. Aladdin tells Alibaba that the only way to free his friend Kasim is to break through the darkness of the black Djinn with his sword. Alibaba replies that the sword has been destroyed, but Aladdin reforges it using his heat magic. Alibaba charges at the demon, dodging every ice spear Judel throws at him. He strikes the demon, but the attack has no effect, and he gets pulled into the creature's stomach. Meanwhile, Aladdin messes with Judel's mind, forcing him to relive painful memories from his past. Overwhelmed, Judel collapses. Inside the black Djinn, Alibaba hears Aladdin's voice, urging him to free Kasim from the darkness while he buys him time. Kasim, consumed by hatred, tells Alibaba to stay away, claiming he's always despised Even when they were kids. He curses Alibaba, wishing for his downfall, and bitterly compares himself to Aladdin, who radiates light wherever he goes, while Kasim believes he was born worthless. On the surface, Aladdin keeps Judel at bay, while encouraging Alibaba not to let Kasim's words hurt him. Kasim lashes out, saying Alibaba was born with royal blood and a loving mother, unlike himself, who inherited nothing but his father's disgrace. He uses dark rook to restrain Alibaba, ranting about how fate is unfairly decided at birth and how sickening it is to see Alibaba's perfection. Aladdin snaps back, punching Kasim and yelling that his self-pitying lies aren't true. Aladdin isn't perfect either and has suffered just as much. He warns Kasim not to twist reality just to justify his hatred. Their argument escalates into a fight, with Kasim gaining the upper hand and knocking Alibaba down. Kasim insists that destiny and status are fixed from birth, forcing Alibaba to relive their painful past, losing their mother, the death of their sister Mariam, and the burning of their slum. He shows how an arms dealer manipulated them into starting a revolution. Consumed by rage, Kasim forms a weapon from dark rook, screaming that anyone should have the chance to rise above their fate, and stabs Alibaba with it. Overcome with guilt, Alibaba cries, realizing he ignored Kasim's pain, or maybe just refused to accept their differences. He wishes they could have found a way to live happily together. His tears release a surge of white rook, which flows into Kasim, clearing his mind. Kasim finally understands she should have embraced their differences instead of resenting them, because no matter what, he could never be Alibaba. As he weeps, a single tear hits the ground, causing the black Djinn to shatter. Kasim bids farewell, saying his time is up. Alibaba insists he came to save him, but Kasim replies that he's done enough and begins floating toward a glowing door. He remembers killing his father, who called him worthless, just like himself. The only one who ever stood by him was Alibaba. Alibaba tries to stop him, but Kasim dissolves into white rook and vanishes. The light dispels the darkness, filling the sky. The arms dealer retreats with Judel, vowing to meet Aladdin again. Alibaba sobs, holding Kasim's lifeless body. The dealer swears to drown Aladdin, Alibaba, and everyone else in darkness until Sinbad and his crew, now reunited with their metal vessels, ambush him. Sinbad obliterates the dealer with a single strike, but is left weakened afterward. Elsewhere, shadowy figures convene, plotting how to handle Aladdin and Alibaba's alliance with the legendary King Solomon. They resolve to confront Solomon as they did centuries ago, vowing to spread darkness across the world. Alibaba mourns Kasim, apologizing for failing to save him. Aladdin comforts him, explaining that the dead don't disappear, they join the great flow of rook. Using Solomon's wisdom, Aladdin shows Alibaba his parents, assuring him that death isn't an eternal goodbye, the departed still watch over their loved ones. Finally, Aladdin transforms the rook back into spirits, reuniting them with those they left behind. Everyone starts rebuilding the city. Morgiana helps provide food for the workers and citizens. Alibaba meets with the people's representatives to discuss the next steps in establishing their republic and to explain what a republic means. As Alibaba and Aladdin watch the reconstruction, a snake bites Alibaba. A guard quickly intervenes, tosses the snake away, and reassures him it's not venomous. Just then, another guard rushes in, reporting that a massive Ku Empire fleet has been spotted offshore. Alibaba is confused about their arrival. Sinbad explains that the Ku likely assumed the rebellion was still ongoing and now intend to seize control of Balbad. If they claim Balbad is still in chaos, it'll be hard to argue otherwise. Sinbad advises Ali Baba to flee. The Ku Empire will undoubtedly take over, turning the royals into puppets or executing them to send a message. Ali Baba refuses, insisting he won't abandon the city and has sworn to Qasim and the Fallen to stay and fight. Sinbad quietly knocks him out. Ali Baba wakes up on a boat, realizing they're not headed to Balbad. Jafar informs him they're approaching Sindria King. Sinbad has gone to the Ku Empire to leverage his influence as leader of the Seven Seas Alliance and handle negotiations. Ali Baba drops to his knees, overwhelmed with emotion. Meanwhile, Mesrur and Morgiana train together, sparring until an alarm signals Sinbad's return. Sinbad thanks Jafar for managing Sindria in his absence and asks about Ali Baba and his friends. He instructs Jafar to summon them so he can share the outcome of his talks with the Ku Empire. Sinbad reveals the Ku Empire has agreed to annex Balbad but will respect its right to become a republic, avoiding forced slavery. Ali Baba thanks him, admitting he couldn't have negotiated better. Sinbad asks about his plans, and Ali Baba says he'll support Balbad quietly from afar. Sinbad warns against this. The Ku are watching him. Sinbad reminds Ali Baba of their past conversation about the world's abnormalities, constant wars, rampant poverty. He explains these aren't coincidences but the work of an organization called Al-Thaman. The banker who crashed Balbad's economy, the arms dealer, and Judal are all members. Sinbad adds that they've been fighting Al-Thaman for years and urges Ali Baba and Aladdin to join the fight, offering to help them unlock their incomplete powers. He promises to arrange training with a powerful magician and skilled swordsman. A guard bursts in, reporting a sea creature sighted off the southern coast. Sinbad urges them to agree as he leaves to handle the situation. The creature destroys a building, but everyone seems excited to watch the hunt. Sinbad and his 8 generals arrive at the scene. Sinbad orders 2 of the generals, Yamraiha and Sharkan, to take care of the creature. The creature shoots water at Yamraiha, but she deflects it and uses the water to restrain it instead. Sharkan cuts off the creature's head, debones it, and slices it into pieces. Sinbad introduces Yamraiha to Aladdin as his new teacher. Sharkan joins them, and Sinbad introduces him as Ali Baba's new teacher. Sharkan hugs Ali Baba and tells him he has a bright future ahead. Yamraiha and Sharkan tease each other, but Sinbad tells them to save their competition for another time. Later that night, the people of Sindria celebrate the Grand Maharagan Festival. Ali Baba remarks how impressive Sinbad is for turning such a remote island into a thriving nation in just 1 generation. Aladdin and Ali Baba admire the women around them, and one of them hands Ali Baba flowers. He realizes it's Morgiana and compliments her, making her blush. Ali Baba, Aladdin, and Morgiana meet Sinbad, who is surrounded by beautiful women. Sinbad introduces them to his 8 generals, starting with Masrur and Jafar, whom they've already met. Next are Hina Hoho, who looks like a giant, Drakon, who resembles a dragon, Yamraiha, Sharkan, Pisti, who looks like a kid, and Spartos. He informs Ali Baba that a prince from the Ku Empire is coming to study in Sindria. Some of Sinbad's generals tease him about settling down, but he replies that his citizens are his family. Morgiana and Aladdin marvel at the country's beauty. Ali Baba asks Morgiana why she chose to come to Sindria instead of returning to her homeland in the Dark Continent. She explains that she's heard about Al-Thaman and wants to fight them to the end, feeling indebted to them. She kneels and begs to join the fight. Aladdin tells her she's free to do as she pleases and doesn't need permission, and Ali Baba agrees. Aladdin says he's glad to have Morgiana on their side, comparing her strength to 100 warriors. They're stunned by how radiantly she dances. Ali Baba shouts that she looks beautiful and confides in Aladdin that he never wants another tragedy like Qasim's to happen again. Aladdin promises to fight Al-Thaman alongside him as fireworks light up the sky. Begins his training with Yamraiha. He shows her his skills, but she says she's not impressed. She explains what magic is capable of and demonstrates by turning herself invisible. She breaks down how invisibility works and how to command the Rook to perform different types of magic. She adds that someone with unlimited Magoi like him could wield incredible power. Ali Baba struggles with his sword practice. Sharkan suggests switching swords, but Ali Baba insists on using his current one because it's similar to his Djinn-equipped sword. Sharkan asks how he plans to summon his Djinn with a broken metal vessel. Sinbad shows up and tells Ali Baba to come with him to fix the issue. Sinbad explains that the knife is now useless, and Ali Baba will need a new metal vessel to transfer his Djinn into something he has a strong emotional connection to. Ali Baba recalls that his broken knife was given to him by his father after a successful trade deal. Sinbad offers him a new knife, a gift from Ali Baba's father during a difficult time. Ali Baba accepts it, and his Djinn immediately transfers into the new blade. Sinbad says the quick transfer means his father is watching over him. Sinbad then encourages Morgiana to pick any metal vessel from his collection. He explains that those who fight alongside a king candidate receive Magoi from him and a Djinn's power blessing, but she'll need a vessel to hold that power. Ali Baba teases her to choose a metal glove, saying it'd suit her. Morgiana declines, pulling out her old shackles instead. She explains they're meaningful to her and prefers using them. Jafar and Masrur interrupt, informing Sinbad that the Ku Empire's delegation has arrived. arrive. Sinbad and the 8 generals greet the delegates. Prince Hakuryu Ren introduces himself as the 4th Prince of Ku. Sinbad welcomes him and asks about the person behind him, only to be shocked when Princess Kujioku Ren steps forward. She smiles, saying she's happy to see him again. Jafar notes their casual conversation and assumes nothing happened during Sinbad's visit to Ku. Sinbad claims he never saw her there, which triggers the princess. She draws her sword, accusing him of taking advantage of her during his visit. Jafar is stunned and demands an explanation. The princess bursts into tears as her assistant explains. On the last day of Sinbad's visit, she woke up to find him naked beside her in bed. Sinbad panics, trying to remember what happened but drawing a blank. Jafar warns that this could spark a war. The princess challenges Sinbad to a duel if he refuses. She vows to kill them both. One of his generals who was with him announced that Sinbad wasn't drunk that day, and they made sure he went to bed after the party. The princess asks why she was in his room and why he was naked. He says he doesn't remember but admits he sometimes sleeps naked. The princess tells her side of the story: someone hit her, she blacked out, and woke up in his room the next day. Sinbad is shocked that his generals believe her. They all agree he's capable of such things when drunk, and that they've heard complaints from women in the city. He tries to remind them of the trust they've built over the years, but it's no use. The princess's assistant suggests he marry her to protect her honor. The generals ask Sinbad for his decision, but he refuses and asks Yamreha to use her magic to show them what really happened. They watch the events and see nothing happened, they just slept all night. The assistant calls the magic suspicious, and insists Sinbad confess and marry her. The princess apologizes for overreacting. The assistant, Ka Kubun, thinks back to what really happened. He knocked out the princess, and with her guard's help, placed her next to King Sinbad. He planned to control her child from her marriage with King Ahmad from the shadows, but that failed, so he tried the same with Sinbad. He keeps insisting Sinbad must marry her, but the guards confess he set everything up and they helped. Sinbad's guards move to arrest him for deceiving the king, but Ka Kubun draws his sword to resist. Prince Hakuryu stops him and apologizes for his traveler's misconduct. The princess forgives Ka Kubun and hugs him. Jafar asks Sinbad if forgiving them and letting them into the kingdom is the right call. Sinbad replies the prince won't leave without completing his mission. The prince then tells King Sinbad that forces in the Ku Empire are planning to attack Sindria. Sinbad asks why he's sharing this and what his goal is. The prince reveals his goal is to destroy the Ku Empire. The prince begs Sinbad to lend him his power in the fight against the Ku Empire. Sinbad insists that first, the prince must learn about his city. The prince argues he doesn't have time, but Sinbad refuses to continue discussions until he's properly informed. Sinbad then suggests introducing him to Ali Baba. Shah Khan takes Ali Baba to a pleasure house and presents him to the girls as a prince. He asks Ali Baba what he thinks of Prince Hakuryu Ren and mentions wanting to spar with him to see who's the better swordsman. A strange-looking girl approaches, offering her services to Ali Baba. Meanwhile, Aladdin and Yamraiha continue magic training. Aladdin demonstrates his defensive spells, while Yamraiha shows off her water magic, urging him to learn offensive techniques. Ali Baba practices swordplay with Sharkan, who criticizes his form, saying it clashes with his Djinn-equipped weapon, but hints there's a better way. After training, Aladdin comforts Ali Baba, admitting Yamraiha's lessons are tough but rewarding. Morgiana arrives, showing off her remodeled shackles now anklets. Testing them, she accidentally tangles Ali Baba and Aladdin in the chains. Apologizing, Ali Baba suggests removing the chain, but Morgiana wonders how to use them in battle. Aladdin advises her to define their purpose, and she replies she wants strength to support them both. They reassure her she's already a huge help, making them feel like they have wings. The prince and princess interrupt. The prince explains Sinbad asked him to join and learn from them. He thanks Aladdin for helping Princess Hakwe in the Kuga Plains. The princess suggests putting past conflicts in Balbad behind them and calling a truce. Aladdin agrees, offering a handshake, but their grip turns into an argument. Ali Baba apologizes, explaining their history. The prince asks if Ali Baba resents him for being part of the empire that occupied his homeland. Suddenly, voices in Ali Baba's head urge hatred. He collapses in pain as strange marks spread over his arm. Sinbad checks on Ali Baba as he lies in bed. A bizarre man emerges from the marks, floating in the air. Sinbad slashes him with his sword, splattering blood. The man curses Sinbad to death, warning Aladdin that resisting will turn his Magoi black, corrupting him. If he fights it, the white and black Rook will clash, destroying him from within. The man vanishes, taunting that he'll await them in the depths of depravity. Yamraiha explains the curse is complex and the caster can undo it. Sinbad reveals one solution, journeying far south to the 61st dungeon. Conquering it would grant the Djinn's power to break any curse or heal any ailment. He can't join, having already cleared 7 dungeon she's limit. The prince volunteers, eager for a dungeon challenge despite Sinbad's warnings. Sinbad reluctantly agrees. Ali Baba blames himself for what happened to Sinbad, but Pisti reassures him that Sinbad will be okay. Yamraiha used her magic to halt the curse's spread for 10 days. A sea monster attacks them, but Pisti swoops in on a bird, calms the creature, and sends it back into the ocean. Aladdin thanks her for the help and insists on calling her Miss, since she's older than Ali Baba. The servants announce announce that the food is ready. Prince Hakuryu explains he prepared the meal to thank them for their kindness. Alibaba remembers Sinbad's advice to silence the doubts in his head and forgive himself. Jafar tells Sinbad he should have avoided the curse, but Sinbad replies that being cursed himself will motivate them even more as he changes his bandages. They reach the island and meet the Tauran people. A little girl approaches, begging them to take her to the dungeon to save her parents. Peasty warns that the dungeon drags in anyone who gets close, and no one ever escapes alive, which is why the islanders stay far away. The prince vows to help her find her parents, promising to defeat any monsters inside if they're already gone. As they paddle closer to the dungeon, Morgiana adjusts her remodeled shackles, now worn as bracelets. Glowing ropes shoot out from the dungeon, wrapping around them and yanking them inside. They all find themselves inside the dungeon. They notice the dungeon has a big tree with multiple doors. They decide to open the doors one by one until they find the one leading to the treasure room. The first door opens to reveal talking turtles nibbling on their thumbs. Behind the others, they encounter various talking creatures, some friendly, some hostile. While dealing with them, Morgiana spots a door leading deeper into the dungeon. They pass through and meet a massive bear who demands honey. Aladdin says they don't have any, enraging the beast. It attacks, and Prince Hakuryu freezes, nearly getting killed until Morgiana intervenes, kicking the bear's legs repeatedly until it crashes to the ground. Alibaba slashes its chest open with his sword, and Aladdin finishes it with heat magic. The bear deflates and flees. Alibaba warns the prince to stay alert next time, and the prince vows not to freeze again. The next door opens to an orchard where humans are trapped in the trees. Zagan, the dungeon's Djinn, introduces himself and explains he feeds the humans to his creatures. Disgusted, Aladdin remembers the little girl's parents, also trapped. The prince tries freeing a woman, but fails. Only magic can release them. The Djinn admits his hatred for humans and reveals he's captured the girl. To save her and the people of Tauran, they must reach the treasure room. Aladdin promises they'll free everyone and break the curse on the prince and Sinbad. Entering another room, they must jump across boxes guarded by hostile dungeon creatures. The prince attacks, but nearly falls. Morgiana saves him again. Alibaba powers up his sword and strikes, but the creatures resist until Aladdin blasts them with fireballs. Alibaba charges the last giant beast, slicing through it, and they all make it safely across. The prince insists they stop saving him. He's a prince and can't rely on others. The Djinn agrees, calling it boring, and splits them into pairs for the next challenge. Morgiana and the prince face giant rock knights. Morgiana's kicks do nothing. The Djinn taunts that only magic can destroy them. The prince channels his power into his weapon and cuts down the first knight, but the Djinn summons more, mocking his stamina. Meanwhile, Alibaba clears his room of knights using Ayman's sword. He asks Aladdin what he thinks of the prince, who seems to take everything on himself. Aladdin wonders if Alibaba dislikes him, but Alibaba just finds him hard to understand. They hurry off to help Morgiana and the prince. The knights appear to be overpowering the prince as blood streams from his eyes. Morgiana steps in, helping him take down one of the knights, and begs him to retreat. The prince insists he'd rather die than be saved by others. He adds that capturing the dungeon is crucial to fulfilling his destiny, and demands she stay out of it. Morgiana disagrees, reminding him that people who love him are waiting for his return, and for their sake, she'll keep aiding him. To the Djinn's shock, she lifts a knight and slams him into the wall. She urges the prince to leave, but he collapses unconscious. In his dream, a mysterious man tells the prince to never stop fighting, while his mother encourages him to stay strong. Alibaba and the others wake him, explaining he passed out and Morgiana had to carry him to safety. The prince grabs his weapon and prepares to leave, but the Djinn interrupts. Impressed they overcame his challenge. He bluntly states the prince has been holding them back, calling him nothing but deadweight. The prince breaks down in tears, agreeing with the Djinn's harsh words. He calls himself useless, and lashes out at his friends when they try to comfort him. He begs them to abandon him and move on without him. Aladdin snaps at him to stop acting like a crybaby. He acknowledges the prince's heavy burdens, but insists they should drive him to survive, even if it means relying on their help. Enraged, the prince presses his blade to Alibaba's throat, accusing him of secretly disliking him. He rants about his own failures and vows to complete his mission alone. Alibaba admits he once felt the same way, and his refusal to ask for help in Balbad led to his friend Kasim's death. Overcome with guilt, Alibaba tears up, shocking Prince Hakuryu, who realizes he misjudged him. The prince confesses he's been saved by his family too many times, but knows he can't stay weak forever. Kneeling, he asks Alibaba to let him fight by his side from now on. Alibaba agrees, offering his hand and declaring they'll conquer the dungeon together. Meanwhile, Judel hovers above Sindria, smirking as he gazes down at the kingdom. Alibaba and the others enter a strange-looking area of the dungeon. Morgiana says she can sense a heavy presence in the air, and Aladdin agrees that the room is filled with unseen forces. They hear the Djinn singing, and spot a pack of hostile wolves preparing to attack. Alibaba warns them that Zagan, the Djinn, is desperate, and they should push him further into despair. Together, they charge at the wolves. Meanwhile, Yamraiha monitors their progress in the dungeon using her water magic and reports back to Sinbad. Jafar remarks that he's glad Alibaba and Hakuryu have finally started getting along. Suddenly, the water projections vanish, and Yamraiha's barrier protecting Sindria shatters. They rush outside to find Judal has infiltrated the city. Jafar orders the guards to sound the alarm and prepare for battle. He attacks Judal, but the dark magician effortlessly deflects the strike and slams Jafar into a wall with his powers. Sinbad arrives and demands to know Judal's intentions, but Judal only mocks his expression. Sinbad tells him to drop the act and get to the point. Back in the dungeon, Ali Baba and the group clear their path of wolves. Morgiana is relieved that the prince and Ali Baba are finally cooperating as she keeps fighting. Ali Baba cautions her not to overextend herself, but she replies that she's happy fighting alongside them. In Sindria, Judal asks Sinbad what he thinks of Aladdin. He claims that another magi shouldn't exist since only 3 can coexist at once. Unless one dies in, there's been no word of the other 2 perishing. He adds that Aladdin wields a power even he doesn't understand, one that the Al-Thaman organization craves. Judal presses Sinbad about his plans for Aladdin, but Sinbad brushes him off, saying it's none of his business. Judal proposes an alliance, but Sinbad refuses, reminding him of his ties to Al-Thaman and the atrocities he committed in Partavia. Judal pleads, insisting he's a victim taken as a baby and molded into their magi against his will, never given a chance at a normal life. He breaks into tears, then suddenly laughs, admitting Sinbad almost fell for his sob story. He confesses the tale is true, but says he doesn't care and will keep doing as he pleases. His real reason for coming, he reveals, is to warn Sinbad that Al-Thaman is furious about him involving the Magi and Ali Baba in their conflict and they've declared war on Sindria. He also mentions they've sent forces after Ali Baba's group in Zagan's dungeon. In the dungeon, Ali Baba yells at the Djinn to free the people he trapped, but the Djinn refuses. Aladdin fires fireballs at him, but the Djinn deflects them, getting slightly burned. Aladdin shouts that he should reveal his true form because he isn't a real Djinn. The creature admits he's just a dungeon created by Zagan, the actual Djinn, to guard the place in his image. Ali Baba demands to know why he kidnapped the villagers and orders him to release them immediately. The fake Djinn laughs it off as a prank, enraging Ali Baba, who charges and slices off his head. Instantly, the creature regenerates and multiplies into copies that attack, sending the group tumbling down a deep pit. Aladdin tries to save them with his flying turban, but it gets destroyed before they hit the bottom. Morgiana scrambles for a plantain, her bracelet's chain activates, wrapping around her friends while the other end anchors to the wall, stopping their fall. She climbs up, drops her friends to safety, and leaps back down to confront the Djinn's clone. Dodging every attack, she hesitates until a glowing bird-shaped light bursts from her chains, empowering her to incinerate the pit monster. The blast destroys the fake Djinn and his copies above. Morgiana smiles, victorious, but then blood trickles from her eyes, and she collapses. Her friends call out, but she doesn't respond. They climb down and find her barely conscious. Aladdin explains she overused her magoi in that attack. The prince adds that such a drain could have killed her. The little girl runs to the prince, sobbing as she hugs him. Ali Baba insists they hurry to the treasure room for help. Inside, the room feels eerie. A serpent monster attacks, carrying the arms dealer and 2 others. Ali Baba vows to protect the dungeon, but the dealer sneers the dungeon's just a bonus. Their real targets? Aladdin's power and Ali Baba's life, offerings for their master. Ali Baba declares he won't let them succeed in their mission. Aladdin tells Prince Harkeryu to take Morgiana and the child to safety while he holds off the monster. Ali Baba draws his sword as he and Aladdin brace for battle. The prince reassures the little girl that Aladdin and Ali Baba will be okay as they find a safe spot to hide. A woman with the arms dealer thinks she's crushed Aladdin, but is shocked when he flies back out unharmed. She climbs down from the serpent and introduces herself as Princess Dunya from the country of Mustasim, then presents her companion as her knight, Isaac. She taunts Ali Baba, asking how he can live with himself after letting his homeland fall to ruin. Ali Baba fires back that Balbat is now a republic and doing just fine. Dunya says his survival is a mistake she's here to fix by killing him with a dark metal vessel. The arms dealer, revealed to be Master Ithnan, explains the vessel was forged using Black Rook by the organization. Dunya orders Isaac not to interfere so she can prove her power to the organization. She stabs the weapon into herself, transforming into a black Djinn, triggering painful memories of Qasim for Ali Baba, who freezes in confusion. The black Djinn attacks, but Aladdin blocks it and yells at Ali Baba to snap out of it. This isn't his friend. Ali Baba charges at the Djinn, but Isaac intercepts, and the 2 clash. Aladdin hurls fireballs at the Djinn, while Prince Harkeryu and the girl find an escape route. Meanwhile, in Sindria, Judal mocks Sinbad, proposing they team up to conquer the world, but for now, he'd rather have fun crushing someone as strong as him. Sinbad dares him to try, but Judal smugly reveals his real goal, breaking Sindria's protective barrier, which he's already done. He warns Sinbad not to die before the organization and the Ku Empire attack together. He boasts that the Ku Empire is stronger than ever, with 5 dungeon conquerors, Princesses Hakwe Ren and Kujioku Ren, and Princes Kuha Ren, Kume Ren, and Kuen Renthe strongest of them all. They'll obliterate Sindria, he claims. Princess Kujioku arrives, demanding to know what he means by destroying Sindria. Judal coolly informs her they're going to war, with the organization targeting Sindria soon. He tries to lure her back, offering to make her a general, but she ignores him. Judal flies off, and Sinbad orders Jafar to summon the 8 generals for an emergency war council. Yamaraiha reports it'll take 10 days to repair the barrier, even with extra magicians. Sinbad dismisses the idea he'd rather have them join the frontline fighters than sit on defense. He'd prefer to fight aggressively, even with his curse, and asks his generals if they'll stand with him. They kneel, pledging their full support. The town is on edge as everyone prepares for battle. Princess Kujioku requests an audience with King Sinbad, pleading on Judal's behalf and reminding him of their friendship treaty, insisting they don't want war. Sinbad explains that the Al-Thaman organization is the one bringing the fight to them and urges her to leave for her own safety before the attack. She refuses, offering to help as a dungeon capturer, and Sinbad tells her she's welcome to stay as long as she likes. Meanwhile, at Zagan's dungeon, the battle rages on. Aladdin holds off the Black Djinn while Isaac proves too fast for Alibaba. When their opponents gain the upper hand, the duo regroups. Alibaba shrinks his weapon, and Aladdin fires smaller Magoi blasts at the Black Djinn. Alibaba slices through his foe's limbs, while Aladdin exhausts and pins his opponent to the wall. Before they can finish them off, Ithnan intervenes, unleashing his power. He transforms Dunya into a full-body Black Djinn weapon, making her stronger. She charges at Aladdin and Alibaba, restraining Aladdin with chains until Alibaba breaks them. Isaac revives, his limbs regenerating, and attacks with explosive speed. Prince Hakuru arrives to help, revealing he's secured Morgiana in the treasure room. Aladdin devises a plan to stall their enemies until they exhaust their Magoi, then strike, but Ithnan interrupts, taunting them with news that Al-Thaman's forces are about to invade Sindria. He blames Alibaba for bringing death and chaos wherever he goes. Hakuryu dismisses Ithnan's words, insisting the organization always planned to attack. Ithnan mocks Hakuryu as Judal's favorite, but Dunya vows to obliterate them all, summoning an extreme magic wave of black rook and a glowing symbol in the sky. As Al-Thaman's forces mobilize to infiltrate Sindria, Sinbad rallies his troops with a motivational speech before the war begins. Jafar updates Sinbad in the war room, reporting that the army has mobilized and the generals have taken their positions for the attack. The army fires arrows at the invaders, and the opposing commanders clash with the generals in a showdown. Meanwhile, Dunya prepares to obliterate Alibaba, Aladdin, and Hakuru in the dungeon. Aladdin warns his friends that Dunya is charging a devastating attack while her Djinn equip is at peak power, but he vows to stop her. He hurls fireballs at her, but Isaac blocks them. Master Ithnan orders Isaac to guard Dunya until her attack is ready. Alibaba and Hakuryu decide to fight Isaac, while Aladdin focuses on Dunya. The two charge at Isaac furiously, while Aladdin launches steam balls. Ithnan is shocked to see Aladdin wield water magic. Isaac dodges every strike effortlessly, frustrating Alibaba, who can't land a hit. He agonizes over his failures, feeling he's let down Sinbad and Sindria, but keeps attacking blindly. Isaac gains the upper hand and strikes only for Hakuru to leap in and lose a hand, blocking the blow. Dunya completes her extreme magic, unleashing a deadly barrage of thousands of swords. Back in Sindria, the generals battle Al-Thaman's forces. One commander, armed with a dark metal vessel, overpowers Sharkan. Masrur holds his own, but the Al-Thaman commanders use their dark vessels to dominate. Pisti summons sea creatures to attack the encroaching black mass, but it devours them. A commander taunts Yamreha, warning that the city is doomed once the mass reaches it. Dinah reverts to her normal form, believing she's won. She begs Ithnan to honor their deal and help her return home, but he calls her a fool for missing her target. Aladdin ambushes Isaac from behind, revealing he used light refracting water magic to trick Dunya into misfiring. Dunya orders Isaac to attack, but he's out of Magoi. Alibaba seizes the chance and slashes his head only to discover Isaac is a sand puppet animated by Dunya's magnetism. As Isaac crumbles, Dunya breaks down. Aladdin explains Al-Thaman manipulated them, and Alibaba realizes they're pawns like Qasim. Enraged, Dunya advances, but Aladdin drops his weapon. Ithnan impales her, executing her. In Sindria, Masrur duels the giant hand commander, dodging every strike before summoning his household vessel to kill him. Sharkan, seemingly defeated, lets his opponent charge an extreme magic attack, then annihilates him with his own household vessel in one blow. Dinah, dying, crawls toward Alibaba, whispering she never wanted this. He cradles her, screaming at Ithnan until the curse spreads across his body, and dark rook erupts from Dunya, engulfing the area. Aladdin witnesses her memories, Magnestat slaughtering her kingdom, Isaac shielding her as knights massacred her family. The vision reveals fate's cruel design. Dunya curses her destiny. Hakuryu asks what's happening. Aladdin says she's falling from grace, possible only when one rejects fate. He urges Alibaba to flee the rook, but Ithnan strikes Aladdin mid-attempt. Ithnan taunts Aladdin, blaming him for Qasim's death, Zagan's events, Morgiana's suffering, and the prince's lost arm. He dares Aladdin to strike him with the black vessel and fully embrace darkness. Aladdin weakly pleads resistance, but Alibaba rams the blade into Ithnan. Sinbad senses the ripple, realizing Alibaba's Zagan dungeon visit was a setup. Mysterious voices hail Alibaba as the new Black King, his outfit turning black. Prince Hakuryu asks Aladdin what happened to Alibaba. Aladdin explains that the dark force has taken him. He tries to summon Solomon's wisdom, but Alibaba attacks him before he can finish. Aladdin says they need to destroy the band on Alibaba's head to free him. Morgiana arrives with the little Magoi she's recovered, and vows to break the band and make him remember even if she has to force him. A black mass starts spreading over part of the city. One of the dark commanders attacks Yamreha, but she blocks it with her mist magic. The black mass advances toward the soldiers. Dracon blasts it with fire breath, but it does nothing. He orders the soldiers to retreat into the city. Sinbad tells Jafar the attack is just a distraction. Aladdin and Alibaba are the real targets. Princess Kujioku interrupts, offering to help. Morgiana fights the corrupted Alibaba, but Dark Aladdin gains the upper hand. Prince Hakuryu, not wanting to seem useless, summons the Djinn Zagan, who gives him a new, stronger arm. He joins Morgiana in battling Alibaba. Despite their efforts, Alibaba holds the advantage until they finally land a hit, and Morgiana destroys the band on his head. Aladdin immediately uses Solomon's wisdom on him. The Black Mass tries to breach the city's barrier to consume everything. The Dark Commander fighting Yamraiha notices her Magoi is drained and her shield is gone. He fires blasts at her, destroying some of her accessories. Yamraiha taunts him, calling him a weak dog, enraging him. He unleashes extreme magic, but she uses the remaining Magoi in her accessories to reflect the blast hitting the Black Mass and destroying half of it. Furious at being tricked, the commander charges at Yamraiha. She dodges, and he impales himself on Spartos' spear. Other generals try burning the Black Mass, but it barely works. Pisty suggests destroying it in one shot, like Yamraiha did. Princess Kujioku flies in, using her metal vessel to summon the ocean, creating a massive tsunami that swallows the Black Mass whole. Sinbad watches from the war room but warns it's not over. Yeth orders preparations for transportation magic. In Alibaba's subconscious, Aladdin finds him sitting alone and swims toward him. He urges Alibaba to come back, saying everyone's waiting. Alibaba asks why they chase fate if everything's already decided. Aladdin replies that fate moves the world until someone surpasses it. He reminds Alibaba they've overcome fate together before, and even though he's faced hardship, he always gets back up and moves forward because he's a hero. His courage inspires others, and that's his true fate. Aladdin calls him his favorite person and offers his hand. Alibaba takes it, and the curse covering his body vanishes. Aladdin says they must leave because ahead lies great darkness. Ithnan tries to escape, thinking he's captured Alibaba. Sinbad stops him and summons his Djinn equip. Ithnan warns him that using the Djinn equip will only make his curse stronger. Sinbad gathers his power, ready to strike, and tells Ithnan the curse didn't take hold because he was already cursed. Ithnan is shocked to see Sinbad summon both white and black Rook. Sinbad attacks, turning Ithnan into a vase, then smashes it to pieces. Alibaba and Aladdin encounter Ithnan in Alibaba's subconscious. Ithnan urges Alibaba to stab him with his knife since Sinbad destroyed his real body. Aladdin asks why he hates the world and wants war and suffering. Ithnan replies that fate is a prison, and to live freely, one must fall from grace, become evil. Aladdin argues that he misunderstands fate. Without it, the world would collapse like Almatoran. He shows them a vision of Almatoran, where everyone perished together despite their different views on fate. Ithnan attacks, but Alibaba counters and spares him, saying he no longer wants to be hated. Aladdin sends Ithnan's spirit to meet Solomon. In the real world, a gleam of white ruck brightens the air. Isaac's spirit says goodbye to Dunya, who cries. Aladdin wakes up and thanks Kasim's spirit for holding back Alibaba's curse before he vanishes. Alibaba wakes up, declaring he's fully back. Morgiana hugs him, relieved. Alibaba also praises Hakuru for conquering Zagan and helping them. On their way back, Alibaba thanks Aladdin for everything. Aladdin says he's happy they met and became friends. Alibaba asks how long their adventures will last. Aladdin replies that they'll go on forever, taking them to new places. He warns that fate's backward flow will challenge Alibaba, but he'll overcome it and become a leader who guides the world forward. As a magi, Aladdin promises to always be there to steer him right. They shake hands. A crowd of white rooks gathers around Aladdin as he floats in the air. He brings up 3 giants from the ground, while different groups of people watch him closely. He sends out a heat wave into the mountain, causing an explosion that can be seen and felt all over the world. Aladdin proclaims that he is truly the magician of creation, a magi. Everyone in Sindria gathers around, waiting for Sinbad to speak. Sinbad steps up to the podium and addresses the crowd. He tells them to celebrate because he and the generals couldn't have achieved such a great victory without them. He announces that Aladdin, Alibaba, Harkaryu, and Morgiana have captured another dungeon. He asks the crowd to raise their glasses with him as they toast to a new adventure. Everyone in town is celebrating. Alibaba and his friends watch and laugh as a group of performers tries to imitate them. Alibaba thanks his friends for sticking with him even though he's caused them a lot of trouble. Sharkin joins in and tells him to stop being sentimental and enjoy the party while pouring wine down his throat. Kakubun tells the prince that the emperor has ordered their return to the Ku Empire. He adds that if they don't leave, they will eventually be seen as unwanted guests. Princess Kujoku says she doesn't want to leave yet because Sinbad has given her the freedom to stay as long as she wishes. Prince Harkuryu insists they should prepare for their journey home. He walks away, thinking about how to achieve his goal. Aladdin entertains Alibaba and Sharkin with his impressions. Sinbad interrupts him, wanting to discuss the other magus. King Sinbad tells him there are 3 other magi apart from himself. Judal, whom Aladdin already knows, Yunnan the Wandering Magi, and Scheherazade from the Raim Empire. He asks Aladdin if he will go to the Raim Empire on his behalf as the Magi of Sindria. Aladdin replies that he's not the Magi of Sindria yet. Sinbad tells him to think about it after the festival and then leaves. Kakubun begs the princess not to get drunk and pass out outside. Jafar enters and pulls Kakubun away for a chat, while the princess asks for water. Sinbad offers her some. Aladdin visits Dunya's room to bring her food from the festival, but the guards tell him she's still not awake. Sinbad takes the princess to a quiet part of the palace. He holds her hand and expresses his wish that such moments could last forever, then walks away. The princess stops him and says she feels the same way. Jafar intercepts Sinbad and asks why he is playing with the princess's feelings. Sinbad responds that he's just trying to gather all the resources he can, seeing her as a person of significant value and power. Jafar agrees that he has become what he never wanted to be, now that he owns too many possessions. Ali Baba approaches Aladdin, who is sitting and eating the food meant for Dunya. Aladdin explains that he tried to see Dunya, but she hasn't woken up yet. Ali Baba says he can't visit because it reminds him of Qasim. Aladdin tells him he's happy. Ugo brought him to their world. He promises to protect the world and prevent its destruction. Fireworks light up the sky, and Aladdin ponders what he can do to ensure he succeeds. Yamraiha returns Aladdin's turban after fixing it. Aladdin appears pleased, and Yamraiha tells him that magical items are valuable. He asks why she doesn't have any household vessel, and she explains that magicians can't use one because their powers are sufficient. When Aladdin inquires, Yamraiha mentions that she studied magic at Magnastad Academy. Princess Kujioku strolls through the garden, enjoying the scent of the flowers. Ali Baba accidentally steps on one, which annoys the princess. She reflects on how she could have married him in Balbad. To apologize, Ali Baba offers her a bouquet. Morgiana observes this from the palace, tying rocks to her hands as she trains more intensely. She interrupts Prince Hakuryu, who is practicing with his new arm. Morgiana advises him not to rush, but he tells her he's leaving the country soon. Sinbad informs his generals that the dark metal vessel is the most significant treasure gained from their war. Yamraiha reports that the country's sorcerers are analyzing its abilities. Sinbad touches the vessel, causing it to glow and reveal some symbol engravings. Yamraiha explains that the symbol was marked on every magical tool in Magnastad. Sinbad asks if Dunya is awake, and they confirm she is, but notes she won't speak to anyone since finding out Yamraiha studied at Magnastad, except for Aladdin. Aladdin tries to entertain Dunya with funny impressions. He expresses happiness that they are friends, and Dunya thanks him for allowing her to see Isaac again. When he asks why she won't talk to others, she explains that the king is an ally of the Magnastad Academy, and Yamraiha works for them. Aladdin fibs, saying there's a stain on her thighs, rushing over to touch her there. Sinbad and Yamraiha catch them in the act and are taken aback. Yamraiha strikes Aladdin with her staff, calling him a little pervert. Ali Baba and Morgiana approach Hakuryu to confirm if he is really leaving Sindria. He reveals he'll be leaving in a week and asks about their plans. Ali Baba responds that they plan to stick with Sinbad for now. Hakuryu expresses gratitude for everything he learned from them, despite their brief time together. Sinbad reassures Dunya that his kingdom has no connections with Magnastad and notes that Yamraiha severed ties with them 10 years ago. He touches her hand to emphasize that he's not trying to hand her over to them, but the dark metal vessel in her reacted. Yamraiha uses her power to calm the situation, but she soon falls into a deep sleep. Sinbad asks if Aladdin can save her with his magi powers, and Aladdin agrees. Using Solomon's wisdom, he enters her subconscious and rescues her from the dark vessel's grasp. Aladdin wakes up, but it seems Dunya is still not entirely well. Yamraiha informs Sinbad and Aladdin that the dark metal vessel severely affected her, and she likely doesn't have much time left. Ali Baba tells Morgiana and Aladdin that it's sad to see Prince Hakuryu leaving so soon. Aladdin then informs them that he will soon embark on a journey alone. Aladdin tells Ali Baba and Morgiana that he wants to enroll at the Magnastad Magic Academy. He mentions that he wants to see the world on a larger scale and not just be stuck in Sindria. Ali Baba offers to go with him, but Aladdin declines, saying he prefers to go alone. Jafar is surprised to hear Aladdin is leaving. Sinbad responds that he can't let him go because it's too dangerous. Yamraiha defends Aladdin, saying he's only going to study the dark metal vessels, but Sinbad insists there's discrimination between magicians and citizens in Magnastad, making it unsafe for him. Ali Baba warns Aladdin that Magnastad might be working with Al-Thaman, which is why he needs him there. He reminds Aladdin that he once said he would fight Al-Thaman together. Aladdin replies that he's decided and wants to make Ali Baba a king, but he can't do that without the right powers and knowledge. Morgiana is training with Masrur, but he's managing to get the upper hand. She asks about his visit to the Dark Continent, and he describes it as nostalgic, with animals roaming freely. He encourages Morgiana to visit, saying it might be the perfect place for her. He adds that when he was young, he didn't see any finalis, and that helped him move on and forget, something Morgiana might also need. Aladdin is feeding Dunya. After chatting a bit, she tells him she's full, and asks why he's going to Magnastad. Ali Baba looks angry about Aladdin leaving without him. He tries to summon his Djinn equip, but it doesn't work. He almost accidentally hits Princess Kujoku, who is standing behind him. The princess gifts him a headpiece she made from the bouquet he gave her. She says she wants to spar with him using their Djinn vessels. The princess summons her Djinn equip and urges Ali Baba to do the same. Sinbad arrives, and the princess changes back, saying she doesn't want Sinbad to see her in an unladylike way. Sinbad then offers to be her sparring partner instead, and tells her to summon her Djinn equip. One of the generals questions why Sinbad would show his powers to an enemy princess, but Jafar replies that Sinbad knows what he's doing. The princess agrees, and transforms while Sinbad does the same. They both fly into the sky and unleash their powers at each other. Sinbad tells her to use her extreme magic and hit him. She agrees and creates a massive tsunami directed at Sinbad, who stops it with his own powers. Hinahoho admires the princess's powers, but Jafar says that the rise of metal vessels has changed combat, and future battles will depend on one's ability to use them effectively. Sinbad tells the princess they've scared their audience enough as he transforms back, but she insists she has more attacks to launch. Sinbad summons another Djinn equip and tells Ali Baba to cover his ears. He screams loudly, putting the princess and everyone else into a deep sleep. Ali Baba catches the princess as she falls. Sinbad, who has already transformed, tells Ali Baba that he has sent the princess's spirit into a deep slumber using the power of Zepar. Prince Harkuryu meets with Sinbad to pay his respects and get feedback on their previous discussion. Sinbad tells him that Sindria lacks the resources to go to war with the Ku Empire, but Harkuryu kneels and responds that he will only need Sinbad's assistance when the time comes. Sinbad agrees, shakes his hand, and says he hopes to get Harkuru's help whenever Sindria needs it, now that they are allies. Jafar eavesdrops on Princess Kujoku and Ali Baba's conversation. The princess mentions she doesn't remember what happened during her spar with Sinbad. Ali Baba explains that Sinbad used his Djinn equip to put her to sleep, and that he was amazing. The princess gets jealous and asks how Ali Baba feels about her skills. He says it's the same for her. She then informs him she has decided to go back home and will talk to her brother and Judel about not attacking Sindria. She also promises not to use her metal vessel against Sindria. Jafar steps out from his hiding spot and says Sinbad is an incredible man for what he has done. Aladdin visits Dunya on her sickbed to let her know he will be leaving soon. He tells her to hang in there until he gets back because he might find a cure for her illness. Dunya asks why he chose to travel alone instead of with his friends. He replies that they will understand. Dunya thanks him for always being by her side and being her only friend. She expresses that she's glad to have met him and then breathes her last. The dark metal vessel covers her body completely. A funeral is held for Dunya with everyone present. Morgiana asks Aladdin what the dark metal vessel is. He responds that he'll figure it out on his journey to Dunya's homeland, and he pays his last respects. Yamraiha also pays her respects and admits she hasn't been a good magician. Morgiana approaches Harkuryu and asks why he's staring at Dunya's ashes. He replies that Althaman has taken control of the Ku Empire and has been helping them for years, revealing their dark side, which is why he refuses to join them. He could have ended up like Dunya. He adds that they executed his family, leaving only him and his sister, Princess Hakwe. He asks Morgiana about her own country and family. She replies that she has no family or memories of them because everyone from her homeland was hunted and sold into slavery. The prince tells her there's a chance her family might still be alive somewhere. She agrees and thanks him. Princess Kujioku and Ali Baba sit in a garden picking flowers. Kujioku tells Ali Baba Sinbad was her first love, and even knowing he won't take her seriously, she still pursued him to Sindria. She starts to cry, and Ali Baba offers her a handkerchief. The princess shares that she was born on the streets because her mother was a prostitute, and even after getting to the palace, she felt different. She mentions that her brother, Kuin, and the Magi Judel found her a place as a warrior, and she decided to serve the Ku Empire in that role, but now she has doubts about it. She adds that when she gets back home, she'll find her purpose. Ali Baba shares that he was also born in the slums and by a prostitute, and their stories are similar. The princess suggests they become friends. Ali Baba agrees, offers her his hand, and says he'd like to be her friend. Aladdin remembers telling Dunya that he wanted to see why Magnestat discriminates against magicians and other people, as that is what happened in his country. He tosses a flower into the sea and says his country is far away. Sinbad and the generals say their goodbyes to Aladdin. Yamreha checks his luggage to make sure he hasn't forgotten anything. Sinbad tells him he can't believe he's traveling so soon, but he respects his decision. Morgiana joins them and tells Aladdin that she'll travel with him for a while because she needs to visit her homeland. She thanks Harkuryu for encouraging her to take the trip. Harkuryu says he'll accompany her on the ship for a bit because he needs to see his sister at the Tenzan Plateau, and he blushes. Masrur warns Morgiana to watch out for the people from Raim because they're skilled at enslaving the Finalis. Yamraiha gives Aladdin a magical tool that lets him call for help whenever he's in trouble. Spartos wishes him good luck on his journey, and Aladdin teases him, saying he doesn't really know who he is, while the other generals chime in, saying Spartos has very little presence. Jafar tells Harkuru that Sinbad has filled him in on their discussion, and that they're ready to help whenever he's ready to put his plan into action. He adds that Harkuru looks better now than when he arrived, to which Harkuru replies, it's all thanks to them. Hakuryu swears on his metal vessel that he'll set his plan in motion before the Ku Empire can launch its evil scheme against Sindria. Jafar kneels and says they have high hopes for him. Morgiana tells Aladdin that Ali Baba didn't say goodbye because he's probably upset about them leaving without him. The ship sets off, and Aladdin gives his final farewell to Sinbad and the generals. Morgiana tells Aladdin not to worry too much about Ali Baba, and that they'll make it up to him later. Aladdin says they won't be apart for long because the universe will bring them back together. Unknown to them, Ali Baba is already on the ship, hiding and watching them. Ali Baba explains that he's hiding from his friends. Things have been rough between them lately, and they don't know he's on the ship because he didn't tell them. He says he's waiting for them in their room and imagines how surprised they'll be when they find him there. Unfortunately for him, he's in the wrong room, the right one is next door. He eavesdrops on their conversation and wonders why they aren't talking about him. He thinks they'll mention him soon and he'll surprise them at their door. Instead, they only say that what they're missing is food. They talk about the mean things he's done. Ali Baba can't believe his ears and starts to cry. His friends walk in on him. Aladdin tells him that Sinbad already let them know he would be traveling with them, which is why they were teasing him. Harkuryu tells him to stop being a crybaby and that it's just a joke, but Ali Baba yells at him. Aladdin reassures him that it's all just a joke and asks Morgiana to back him up. Morgiana confirms that what she said about him was true. Aladdin asks why he got on the train since non-magicians aren't allowed to enter Magnastat. Ali Baba replies that he's going to Rame to train to become a gladiator. They ask him why he made that choice, and he shares what he told Sinbad. He told Sinbad that he was shocked to see him and Princess Kujoku show such powers, and that he tried to replicate them but doesn't have the ability. Sinbad told him there has to be a reason he can't do a full-body Djinn equip. He touched his hand and said that his Magoi had changed in quality, and he'd never be able to do a Djinn equip unless he did something about it. He asked Sinbad what he did when it happened to him, and Sinbad replied that he visited a Magoi manipulation village to train. Aladdin asked Ali Baba about the Magoi manipulation village, but before Ali Baba could answer, Harkuryu interrupted, saying it's a village occupied by the Yambala people, who are nomads without a specific village location. Ali Baba mentioned he knows where to find them, but Harkuryu cut him off again, saying they are in a coliseum in Rame, where they offer gladiator training. The generals were feasting at the same table. Shah Khan expressed that he missed having an apprentice. Sinbad thanked Yamreha, Shah Khan, and Masrur for doing a great job training them. Yamreha said they couldn't believe Ali Baba was going to follow them since they all thought he was staying behind. Shah Khan disagreed, recalling when they went drinking, and Ali Baba started ranting about Aladdin. He remembered telling Ali Baba to forget about being a prince, and instead train to be a gladiator at the Rame Coliseum. Sinbad added that he also talked to Ali Baba and confirmed that he made his own decision. Shah Khan said they would see whose apprentice turns out the best. He and Yamreha started arguing about their apprentices, and Masrur joined in. The four friends were seen laughing, eating, training, and having fun together. On the ship, a sea creature attacked them, and they all prepared to fight the monster. Ali Baba insisted on handling it himself, summoning his Djinn weapon to defeat the monster. Later that night, Morgiana and the others told Ali Baba how awesome he was when he faced the monster. Hakuryu promised to fight alongside him next time, but Aladdin reminded them there might not be a next time since they were approaching the port where everyone would go their own ways. The next morning, it was announced that they had spotted land. The captain announced they would reach the port of Aktia in half a day. Morgiana felt something was off about the town they were heading to. She looked closer and realized the town was on fire. Someone emerged from the water and floated in the air, ordering them to surrender all valuables on their ship. They asked him who he was, and immediately, his crew members surfaced from the sea. He informed them that they were pirates. The pirates broke onto the ship and rounded up everyone by pointing and shooting water balls from their magical weapons. Ali Baba and his friends began to fight back, realizing the pirates were just kids. When Ali Baba and his friends started gaining the upper hand, the pirates called for their leader, Olba, for help. Olba confronted them and asked Aladdin how old he was while aiming her weapon at them. Aladdin tried to escape the potential blow, but another pirate blasted him off the ship. Olba trapped Ali Baba, Morgiana, and Harkuryu in a water bubble and tossed them overboard. Harkuryu used his metal vessel powers to bring them back onto the ship to take on the pirates. Olba noticed they couldn't overpower him, so he threatened to execute Aladdin if they didn't stop. Harkuryu complied but dropped something into their stolen cargo. The pirates cleared out all valuables on the ship and vanished back into the sea. Morgiana helped the injured captain, who told them he didn't know how he would face Sinbad because of the stolen cargo. He pleaded with them to hold on while searching for Aladdin and go ashore because of the injured sailors. The captain mentioned the pirates were called Madara. One of the crew members rushed in to inform them they had company. They went outside and saw a huge ship next to theirs. The captain revealed that the ship belonged to the Aktia Navy. When they reached the town, they found it nearly destroyed. The captain explained that the pirates had ravaged it. Some Navy members approached and told them about the Madara. One explained that the Madara were pirates from the west who used their magical tools for looting. The captain asked why the pirates had overpowered them, and he responded that they had to send troops to the northern border to prevent Magnastat from capturing their city. He added that since taking over Mustasim, they had planned to encroach on all neighboring countries. Harkuryu questioned why Aladdin wanted to visit such a dangerous place, but Ali Baba replied that it might be the reason Aladdin Aladdin was going there. Some parents approached them, crying and begging the Navy to help retrieve their children. The navalman revealed that the pirates had a policy of taking kids against their will wherever they went. Aladdin woke up to find himself on a ship sailing underwater. Olba entered and expressed surprise that Aladdin wasn't screaming like the other kids. He urged him to behave so he wouldn't string him up. Aladdin went into a room and discovered the device that allowed them to sail underwater, marked with the emblem of Magnastat. He noticed Olba pushing a kid who had passed out to keep working. Aladdin realized they were using the kid's magoi to power the device. He tried to stop them, but Olba warned him not to interfere. The naval officer explained to Ali Baba that they couldn't save the children because the pirates traveled underwater, making it hard to pinpoint their location. Harkuryu mentioned he had a plan. He summons a plant from the ground and tells them that he dropped the seeds of the plant into the cargo the pirates stole, and the roots can lead them to the exact location of the pirates. He explains that by combining Zagan's power with his magoi manipulation abilities, he can control any plant at will. Ali Baba urges the Navy to help them rescue the kids. The Navy officer says they can't join the rescue because they have no way to assess the enemy's strength and can't risk losing their battleship. One of the parents loses his temper and shouts that they always make excuses. He adds that if the kids were of noble or royal blood, they would have already been found. The naval officers get angry and attack him. Ali Baba asks his friends to delay their travel a bit while they rescue Aladdin and the other kids. He promises the parents that they will rescue their kids, bring them back safely, and won't take a dime from them. He thinks it's what Qasim always wanted when he was alive. Olba takes Aladdin and his captives to his homeland in a hidden location. Everyone welcomes Olba as he walks through the place. Later at night, they all gather around a table for dinner. Aladdin asks why there are only kids there. Olba explains that most of the kids have never had a proper meal before, but with Madara, they have been eating their fill. A woman named Madara thanks Olba for using his air bubble to save them again. She tells Aladdin that she is the mother of all miserable children in the world and will protect him from starvation, cold, sickness, and every bad situation. Aladdin asks her about the kids who collapsed on the ship after exhausting themselves for her. Olba interrupts and says they are alive because of her and would gladly give their lives for her. The other kids agree and start chanting her name. Madara tells Aladdin that in time, he will understand that she is his whole world. Ali Baba and his friends track the pirates' location using Harkuryu's plant. Ali Baba thanks the ship's captain for lending them the ship. Harkuryu and Morgiana communicate with Yamraiha, Sharkan, and Sinbad using the magical tool they found in Aladdin's luggage. Ali Baba joins them, and Sinbad asks if they need any backup for the mission. He declines, saying they can handle it on their own. After ending the conversation, Ali Baba jokes with Harkuryu, asking him to teach him how to use the Djinn equip since he's already mastered his. One of the crew members points out an island they've spotted. They conclude it might be the island where Aladdin is being held. Someone raises an alarm that a pirate ship has been taken over by plants. Another person informs them that a ship is approaching from the south. Olba calms everyone down, saying they won't be able to get in because the island is surrounded by cliffs. Morgiana throws Ali Baba and Harkuryu over the cliffs and onto the island and follows them. Someone tells Madara and the kids that 3 people have invaded the island, and one of them is a girl. Aladdin confirms it's Ali Baba and the others. He tries to go outside to join them, but Madara orders some kids to hold him back and keep him with her. Ali Baba demands that they hand over Aladdin and the other kids, or they'll take them by force. Olba says that won't happen, and commands her fighters to attack. They launch water balls at them. Ali Baba warns the others that their attack has become stronger, and they need to be careful. One of the fighters explains that they've connected their magical tools to magic-amplifying insects, making them more powerful. Madara takes Aladdin and some kids to a different place. She tells Aladdin she'll turn him into one of her good children. Ali Baba dodges all the attacks from the fighters. He and Morgiana try to hit them, but the fighters prove too slippery. The fighters retreat into their caves in air bubbles and shoot water balls at them sneakily. Morgiana rushes into the burrows, defeats all of them, and collapses the entire cave. Seeing this, Ali Baba cheers and says Morgiana is amazing. They decide to chase after the escaping fighters to rescue Aladdin. Olba informs Madara that Ali Baba and his friends have breached the coves and are on their way to her. She calms them down and assures them she'll make them her new members since they're still young. The kids try to stop Ali Baba as he and the others head for Aladdin. He's surprised to find himself surrounded by little kids with knives, claiming they need to protect Madara. Madara sprays Aladdin with a smoky substance that hypnotizes him and makes him remember his time with Elder Baba. He tells Madara that he feels unbelievably happy. Aladdin and his friends push the little kids away. Harkuryu suggests they ignore them and go after Madara. The little kids stop them, pleading not to harm Madara. Through tears, they say she has always been kind to them, even when everyone abandoned them in the slums. As they search for Aladdin, Ali Baba tells the others that the little kids are fighting for their savior. Harkuryu counters that it doesn't change the fact that they're still pirates. Ali Baba acknowledges they must have been raised that way, which isn't their fault. Morgiana agrees, stating she did worse by obeying her foster parents' orders. Harkuryu admits he's not sure if he has such memories since his sister was like his mother. Still hypnotized, Aladdin is asked by Medora who he wants to see. He falls into a trance and wishes to see Ugo, but instead sees his mother and realizes she is Medora. Medora tells him she is his mother and promises he will never be lonely again. Ali Baba and his friends burst in and confront Medora. Aladdin snaps out of his daze and joins them, declaring they're there to stop her. Olba and the other pirates step in, pointing their weapons at them to prepare for an attack. Medora tells them she will make them her good little children. She uses her magic tool to summon a brightly colored feather that hypnotizes Ali Baba and the others. Ali Baba claims the magic doesn't affect him but notices his heart is racing. Morgiana drops to her knees and refers to Medora as mother. Ali Baba is confused and shouts at her to regain her senses. Ali Baba notices he's crying as Medora sprays them with a smoky substance. Medora tells him that no one can escape their mother's love and shows Ali Baba memories of his mother. Ali Baba drops his knife and kneels down. Morgiana keeps calling Medora her mother. Medora wonders what kind of dream Hakuryu is having. Hakuryu dreams about the time he told his mother he had a nightmare where they were all executed, except for him and his sister, and his mother calmed him, assuring him no one in the world wanted them dead. He also kneels down. Medora mentions her plan to manipulate future world leaders from a young age to control the world. Ali Baba goes into a trance and sees his mother encouraging him to share what's bothering him. He recalls the moment Sinbad told him Balbad fell under the Ku Empire but was granted autonomy as a republic. He expresses his desire for Balbad to be more than that, but acknowledges he shouldn't doubt Sinbad. Aladdin snaps him back to reality, telling him the woman he's seeing isn't really his mother. Even if she is, he shouldn't blindly obey everyone, and they should live their own lives from now on. Ali Baba breaks free from the spell and retrieves his weapon. Aladdin also encourages Morgiana to remember something important someone gave her. She recalls Golta's words and breaks free as well. Seeing this, Medora tries to restrain them with her powers, but they escape. They vow never to be swayed like that again. Medora wonders why her powers didn't work on them, and concludes they are adults in their youth. Olba orders the pirates to attack them and protect Medora with their lives. Ali Baba tells them they've been deceived. Medora informs them that nothing they do can reverse the brainwashing she did on Olba and the other pirates. Unaware that Hakuryu is still under the spell, Ali Baba urges him to use his powers to stop Medora, but Hakuryu attacks them instead, claiming he will protect her. He summons his Djinn equip and prepares to attack. Hakuryu has flashbacks of the time his parents were brutally executed and his brother, with his last breath, urging him to fight to the very end to save their nation. Hakuryu attacks Ali Baba, Aladdin, and Morgiana, but they dodge his strikes. Medora seems pleased to witness this and remarks that he is the only child among them before leaving the scene. To Ali Baba's surprise, Hakuryu summons monsters from the air to attack them. Aladdin explains that the Djinn equip allows him to create monsters from microbes, not just plants. Ali Baba realizes his sword is ineffective against Hakuryu and wonders why he is fighting so fiercely. Hakuryu recalls that his brother told him who stole the Ku Empire from them. He keeps attacking Ali Baba, shouting that he turned his mother against him. Eventually, Ali Baba's sword cuts through Hakuryu's weapon, causing him to revert back and lose consciousness. Aladdin suggests pursuing Medora, but they find themselves surrounded by pirates. Medora and Olba escape in their air bubbles, falling into the nets of the Actean navy that had already surrounded the island. The navy commands them to drop their weapons and surrender. Olba refuses and launches water balls at them. They immediately shoot arrows back at her, but Ali Baba jumps in to burn the arrows. He urges the navy to lay down their arms and pleads with Olba to surrender. She agrees and drops her weapon. Back in Actea, Ali Baba and the others wonder if the spell has worn off on Hakuryu, but Aladdin suggests they let him rest. Hakuryu lies unconscious on a mat. He dreams of confronting his mother about her role in their father's and brother's murder, but she does not deny it. Ali Baba and the others are concerned about what will happen to the kids. Ali Baba thinks they'll probably be taken to prison. The naval officers inform the crowd that they're transporting Medora to another station, but the kids plead for her. Medora thinks of them as brats and says they disgust her. The crowd demands that Medora not be transported but executed instead. They attack her, preparing to lynch her. Hakuryu takes a sword and intervenes. Medora appears happy to see him, saying he's come to save her, but to everyone's shock, Hakuryu executes her by beheading her. Ali Baba confronts Hakuryu about why he executed Medora. Hakuryu explains that the people wanted the pirate leader executed. He adds that she reminds him of his mother, who is the witch of Alphaman. He reveals that his mother conspired with his uncle to eliminate his father and brothers so they could take over the Ku Empire. He declares that it's his mission to carry out the wishes of Althamanhes, mother, and insists that any mother who doesn't care for her children, like Medora, shouldn't be allowed to live. Olba grabs a knife and attacks him. He disarms her, strikes her, and sends her crashing to the ground. He tells them that Medora is just using them for her own selfish reasons and doesn't care about them. Ali Baba tries to take the knife from him and then walks away. The naval officers move the kids onto the ship. Aladdin notices dark rooks hovering over them and says they have to stop them. Ali Baba demands that they hand the kids over so they can take them back to Sindria. Morgiana stops Hakuryu and tells him not to go off on his own, but to talk things over with Ali Baba instead. Hakuryu urges Morgiana to come with him to the Ku Empire. He confesses that he loves her and wants her to be his wife, so they can rule the empire he is building together. To Morgiana's surprise, he grabs her hand and kisses her. Ali Baba informs Olba and the other pirates that Sindria has decided to take responsibility for them. Olba disagrees and says they can't do better anywhere anywhere without Madara. He adds that there's no point in living if Madara isn't alive anymore. Alibaba tells him to stop talking like that because the other kids look up to him and they will believe what he says. Alibaba convinces him to go with the others to Sindria, and he agrees. Morgiana approaches Alibaba and Aladdin as they watch the ship leave. She tells them that Hakuryu has left the city and decided to travel to the Tenzin Plateau on his own. Alibaba decides to go after him, saying he's like Kasim and will regret it if he hurts his mother. Morgiana stops him and pleads with him not to go after him. Aladdin volunteers to go instead and asks if that's okay with Morgiana. Aladdin catches up with Hakuryu and tells him that Alibaba is disappointed he left without saying goodbye. Hakuryu says he's about to start a war that will divide the Ku Empire in two. He asks for Aladdin's help when the time comes. Aladdin says he doesn't like war but will help him if he ever gets into trouble. Aladdin adds that he's obsessed with revenge and it won't benefit him. Hakuryu thanks him for the time they've spent together and says goodbye. He remembers Morgiana told him that no man had ever expressed his feelings to her before. He promises to come back one day and marry her. Alibaba and his friends dig into a platter of food. Morgiana seems quiet and struggles to eat because Hakuryu has left. Alibaba playfully tempts her with the food and eventually gets her to eat. He tells them he'll be traveling the next day to Reims. Morgiana mentions she'll be heading back to her homeland, and Aladdin says he'll be traveling by land to Magnustat. Alibaba and Morgiana say they'll be back in a year, but Aladdin says it'll take him longer because he has a lot to learn. Aladdin reminds them that their destinies are connected, and they will definitely meet again. Alibaba suggests they make a promise to ensure they'll all reunite one day. They join in the festivities with everyone, dancing, eating, and teasing each other. On their way home, Alibaba spots a pleasure house. He lies to Morgiana, saying he and Aladdin need to make a quick stop. Morgiana says she'd love to come along, but he refuses and urges her to go home without them. Aladdin asks why he's making her leave. Alibaba tells him she'll be fine and whispers something in Aladdin's ear. Aladdin quickly agrees with Alibaba and tells Morgiana to leave. Morgiana decides to secretly follow them and see what they're up to. She follows them into the pleasure house and overhears Alibaba saying the same thing to the prostitutes that Hakuryu told her. This makes her angry, and she stomps the ground with her leg and storms out. Alibaba sees Aladdin having a blast and decides to call over the most popular girl in the pleasure house. To his surprise, it's the strange girl he always sees at these places. The next morning, they bid each other farewell and promise to return stronger. Aladdin flies off on his magic turban. Alibaba gets on the ship but quickly comes back down to give Morgiana a necklace. He tells her to wear it always in case she ever needs a new household vessel. Morgiana thanks him, and he leaves. While flying, Aladdin gets hungry. He notices a carriage with a convoy and decides to land to check it out. He begs the driver to let him hop on, but the driver refuses and asks for payment. Aladdin offers all the money Sinbad gave him. The man agrees to let him on but warns him not to talk to the noble inside the carriage. Aladdin fills his stomach and decides to take a nap. He remembers Yamreha telling him not to reveal he's a magi when he gets to Magnustat. He imagines the noble the driver mentioned are ladies and tries to get in with them. Suddenly, the carriage is stopped by bandits who use magical tools to wipe out the mercenaries protecting it. Aladdin attempts to use his powers to stop them, but a young man emerges from the carriage with a large sword. He fights the bandits and slices through them effortlessly. The bandits try to stop him with their magic, but he calls upon his metal vessel. The sword grows large and he takes them all out in one blow. Aladdin asks the carriage driver who the young man is, and he tells him he's a prince of the Ku Empire named Ren Kua. Kua's maids are telling him they should have taken the magic carpet instead of traveling by land while they take care of him. One of them makes a mistake, and Kua hits her several times. Aladdin overhears them saying they're heading to Magnustat and decides to join in and introduce himself. Kuha tells him they don't let non-magicians enter Magnustat. Aladdin replies that even if it's hard to believe he's a magician, he's going there to learn more about magic. The driver tells Kuha they'll reach their destination in 9 days. Aladdin asks one of the maids to show her face. She says she looks terrible. She explains that they were once stuck in a magic lab when Prince Kuha decided to recruit them as his magicians. She adds that the prince bandaged them, clothed them, and gave them warm smiles. The prince tells her she's beautiful and different from other women. The maids hug him and say they love him. Aladdin quietly leaves the scene. The carriage continues on without any issues. They arrive at the Magnustat checkpoint, and Prince Kuha and Aladdin go their separate ways. The prince bids Aladdin farewell and directs him to the entry checkpoint. Aladdin remembers Yamraiha warned him not to use the Rook's powers to avoid detection, and that he should never do anything that reveals he's a magi. When it's Aladdin's turn to be checked, he shows his shield magic. He emits a few rooks, but the observer ignores it, thinking it's just his imagination. He feels relieved to have passed the check, and thanks Yamraiha for giving him the magical tool that helps him block Rook emissions. He recalls that Yamraiha told him the tool wouldn't let him perform magic like a real magi, but only as a normal magician. The Chancellor introduces Prince Kuha and welcomes him. Back in Sindria, Jafar wonders if Aladdin successfully enrolled in the academy. Yamraiha mentions that Aladdin is probably taking the Kodor exams at that moment. Sinbad explains that the students are divided into 6 levels based on their abilities. Yamraiha is confident that Aladdin will be assigned to the first Kodor, which is for the best students. In Magnustat, Aladdin ends up with the 6th Kodor, which is usually given to the lowest ranked students. He pleads with the examiner for another chance but still fails to impress. He realizes he won't be able to cast great magic without the Ruka's help. A magician leads them into the city, informing them that it's protected by a strong barrier, so they can't leave or enter without without permission. When they arrive, Aladdin is astonished by the city's beauty. They fly on a magic carpet over the town, marveling at the extent of magic permeating the area. At the academy, they're allowed to rest for the rest of the day to prepare for the next day's classes. Aladdin finds his room and discovers that the guy who called him a twerp during the exams is his new roommate. The guy, Sphintus, tells him he's a 4th Kodor and can't befriend a 6th Kodor. He explains that the academy holds a magic exam called the Ikhtiar every 2 months, and anyone who fails is usually expelled. Aladdin promises to work hard once magic classes start. Sphintus checks Aladdin's schedule and informs him that he mainly has body strengthening classes and no magic lessons. A well-built woman named Myers introduces herself as their instructor. She yells at them and whips them if they can't raise their voices. She lifts Aladdin and slams him to the ground, explaining that being in the 6th Kodor is about building physical strength. She orders them to do push-ups while she whips anyone who doesn't keep up. Myers tells them that only those who believe in themselves and don't give up will get magic lessons. She calls them feeble and pathetic, commanding them to keep running, threatening expulsion to anyone who stops. Aladdin wonders why these lessons are different from Yamraiha's, but decides he won't give up on his goal of learning magic. At dinner, Aladdin struggles with the food served, recalling his instructor's words, which motivate him to eat more. He realizes the food tastes terrible. The next morning, they continue their physical training. Aladdin and the others struggle to catch their breath while doing various exercises. The instructor criticizes Aladdin for being too slow in a specific exercise and slams him to the floor. Later that night, Sphintus asks Aladdin about where he's from. Exhausted, Aladdin replies that Sphintus should share about himself instead. Sphintus says he can't share his personal life with a stranger. Aladdin tries to go back to sleep, but Sphintus wakes him up and insists he listen. He starts to tell his story, but Aladdin dozes off, which frustrates Sphintus. Some of the 6th Kodor students express their desire to learn magic and say they're tired of the constant workouts, so they quit. During a meal, Aladdin and his new friends notice that the class size has diminished due to people dropping out. One friend, Silin, encourages everyone to trust their instructor to become magicians no matter what. Aladdin agrees with her. Back in their dormitory, Sphintus tells Aladdin that he heard people are quitting in his class. He advises Aladdin not to quit and insists he can't quit no matter what. Aladdin agrees, saying the same goes for him. Aladdin expresses surprise at Sphintus's awesome personality. Sphintus tries to share his story again, but this time Aladdin falls asleep. Sphintus yells at him, claiming he's doing it on purpose. Their regular exercise routine continues, and Aladdin gets better at it. Myers congratulates Aladdin and 4 others for being the only ones who made it through the training. She gives them back their wands and explains that the physical strength training is meant to break the limit their bodies have on their magic output. Aladdin performs his magic and realizes he now has greater power. Myers admits she didn't think he could last until the end. Aladdin thanks her, saying he couldn't have done it without her. Myers informs them they are ready to start magical lessons. Lady Myers brings out a magical tool that looks like a statue and instructs them to take turns touching it. Aladdin touches it, and the statue emits flames, indicating he is a red magician. The others take turns, and the statue reveals their specific magical abilities. Lady Myers explains there are 8 types of magicians: Type 1 Flame, Type 2 Water, Type 3 Light, Type 4 Lightning, Type 5 Wind, Type 6 Sound, Type 7 Power, and Type 8 Life. She adds that those skilled in heat and flame magic are called red magicians. She mentions that magicians can also use other compatible types of magic. For example, water magicians can use sound magic, and flame magicians can use wind magic. She encourages Aladdin to give it a try. He listens to the rook, recites a spell, and performs wind magic. Lady Myers teaches them not to rely on one type of magic, but to communicate with different rooks to generate more power. Sphintus reminds Aladdin that if he fails the Ikhtiar exam, he'll be expelled, no matter how well he did in class. He reassures Aladdin he can't be expelled, as he has worked hard. He urges Aladdin to listen to his story this time, but the moment he starts, Aladdin falls asleep again. The next day, Aladdin's classmates are all nervous and fidgety about facing the crowd to perform their magic. Lady Myers inspires them by saying they can do it because they have come a long way. The examiners call on Aladdin to perform his magic. To everyone's surprise, he summons both flames and wind magic and combines them. The examiners are shocked by his skills, and he is immediately promoted to the Honest Kodor. Lady Myers rushes over to hug him. Sphintus tells Aladdin he's stronger than he looks for making it from the 6th Kodor to the Honest Kodor in just one go. Aladdin jokes that as a first Kodor, Sphintus should run errands for him. Sphintus disagrees, saying he's older and doesn't do that. Aladdin comments that Sphintus reminds him of his friend Ali Baba. Ali Baba is lying helplessly on the floor, looking messy. A kid jabs him with a stick, and a cat pees on him and wakes up to his stomach growling. He remembers being robbed after getting drunk thanks to a crew member on his ship. A lady throws him some bread as she walks by. He jumps on it and gobbles it down immediately. He heads to the Gladiator Training Academy, hoping to get in, but a woman named Toto turns him down because he doesn't have a letter of introduction. He explains he was robbed and lost the letter from Sinbad. Toto says his only other option is to defeat her in one-on-one combat. Ali Baba agrees and draws his sword. He tries to attack but is too weak and falls to the ground. Toto hits him with her weapon, sending him crashing outside the academy. 3 men find him lying there and recognize him as their former leader of the Fog Troop. They take him in, give him clothes, and care for him. When Ali Baba wakes up, he recognizes them and thanks them for their kindness. The men tell him they now have their own gambling business. He explains that he wants to join the city's gladiator training school to find the tribe of Magoi manipulators. He collapses and asks for food. Alibaba quickly eats the food they brought. One of the men asks why he wants to join the gladiator school. They explain that gladiators are slaves who only fight when commanded by their master. They mention that the city of Reims is prosperous, with good roads, clean water, and no hunger. Alibaba notices a commotion. An unclothed man gets pushed to the ground by guards trying to remove him. Alibaba helps him up, and the man thanks him. The man reveals his golden teeth and continues to gamble. He loses again, and with Toto's encouragement, they leave. Toto reminds the man of why they came, and points at Alibaba. The man introduces himself as Shambo Ramal, the owner of the gladiator school, and apologizes for how Toto treated Alibaba. He offers to admit Alibaba if he has a rematch with Toto. Alibaba agrees, and everyone gathers to watch. They start fighting, and Alibaba begins to gain the upper hand. Shambo calls out to Toto to use her powers. She summons her powers and enlarges her sword, striking Alibaba until he bleeds. Though he seems powerless to stop her, he chooses not to use his Djinn equipment. Instead, he gathers his remaining strength for close combat. He eventually overpowers her, and Shambo instructs them to stop fighting. Shambo tells Alibaba he's impressed with his swordplay, which matches Sinbad's description. He confirms that Alibaba is a Magoi manipulator and has been waiting for him. Alibaba thanks the men for saving him and leaves with Shambal to the gladiator school. At the school, Shambal explains that most trainees are free men from diverse backgrounds. Shambal tells him that he and the 4 others there are Yambala gladiators, training in the Colosseum to master their swordplay. He asks Alibaba his main reason for coming. Alibaba explains he needs their help to master his Magoi and achieve full Djinn equipment. Shamble says they'll examine him right away and tells Toto to assist by getting the necessary instruments. They perform acupuncture, inserting needles into his back. Shambal tells him he has a bad Magoi flow because 2 different Magoi are flowing inside him. He adds that he needs treatment soon to prevent the 2 Magoi from damaging his organs. Shambal tells him that if he learns Magoi manipulation, he can master both flows. He suggests Alibaba fight in the Colosseum to raise money for his treatment since he was robbed. Alibaba appears nervous in the arena. Shambal tells his companions that if Alibaba manages to master both Magoi flows, he will become very strong. Alibaba calms himself, thinking that his skills can match anyone, but to his surprise, his opponent is not Humanits, a massive monster. A lady named Lady Scheherazade watches the fight from a section of the Colosseum. A man enters and tells her it's unusual for her to watch a gladiator fight. Shambal tells Alibaba that he can't use his weapon or perform a Djinn weapon equip. The knights take his weapon away and give him a regular sword instead. Shambal urges him to forfeit if he can't fight. Alibaba replies that he's ready and will keep fighting. The monster ape, Garda, is released, and the match starts. Garda throws several punches at Alibaba, but he dodges them all. He slashes the ape with his sword, but it doesn't faze it. Shambal notices and says it'll take more than that to defeat the monster. Alibaba realizes this too, and decides to aim for a deeper cut. He stabs Garda in the chest, thinking he's overpowered it, but Garda's muscles block the sword. Garda then delivers a brutal blow, smashing Alibaba into the ground several times. Toto begs Shambal to step in before Alibaba gets hurt, but he ignores her, saying Alibaba claimed he was prepared. Alibaba lies helplessly on the floor, hoping the match will be stopped since he feels defeated. Garda picks him up. Alibaba wonders why no one is stopping the fight as he hears the crowd yelling for Garda to finish him. Garda bites Alibaba's arm as he struggles to escape. The crowd continues to scream for Garda to execute him. Alibaba questions what kind of people they are, and then his vision fades. In his subconscious, he sees the faces of his loved ones and remembers their words. He recalls how he and Qasim teamed up to confront older kids bullying them. Back in reality, Shambal comments that Alibaba's life is flashing before his eyes. Garda doesn't seem finished and breaks Alibaba's arm. Alibaba fears the ape will kill and then eat him. Remembering his times with Qasim, he decides to summon his courage. Toto tells Shambal there's no way Alibaba can fight with one hand, but he notices a change in Alibaba's eyes. Alibaba stands up to the monster, spots a statue with a spear, and tricks Garda into chasing him toward it. Garda shatters the statue, releasing the spear. He bites Alibaba's arm again and tries to eat him, but to everyone's surprise, Alibaba stabs him in the mouth with the spear. He grabs his sword and challenges the monster to attack him. Garda chases him to a wall, and Alibaba stabs his hand using the wall for leverage. Garda throws several punches, but Alibaba dodges them and slashes him repeatedly. This weakens Garda, causing him to collapse. Alibaba remembers how he and Qasim used to team up against bigger bullies when they were kids. Shambal sees 2 Magoi fusing inside Alibaba and rushes over to check on him. 2 Finalis soldiers talk about the fight. One claims they would have beaten the monster in half the time Alibaba took, and her brother would do it even faster. The other wonders where their leader is, and she points to a location. Lady Scheherazade says she came to the Colosseum because she senses something strange but can't tell if it's Alibaba. She asks Mu Alexius, a Finalis man, if he comes to the Colosseum often, and he replies that he only comes to rally the crowd as their top swordsman. He informs her that he's there to warn her that the nation of Magnestat plans to attack their country and nearby nations. He adds that they have access to countless magical tools. He reassures Lady Scheherazade that he and the Finalis army will always fight for her and protect the country when the time comes. She thanks him and promises to do everything in in her power to safeguard the Reams Empire. She also tells him she senses some abnormalities in the Ku Empire. Toto checks on Alibaba and is shocked to see Garda in the room. Alibaba explains that he bought Garda's freedom with his winnings. Toto notices something has changed about Aladdin. He seems like a different man now. Shamble arrives and tells Aladdin he senses the two Magoi fused within him. He asks Alibaba if he realizes what he needs to do. Alibaba replies that he has to take back Balbad, the country he couldn't protect because Kasim entrusted it to him. Morgiana arrives in Cathargo, her homeland, only to find it in ruins. She walks through the remnants of the town, unable to ignore the destruction. Stepping on a chain, she reflects on the toll the slave trade has taken on what was once a thriving place. She heads to a local inn to cool off and wonders why there are no Finalis people around and where they might be. The men at the inn notice she is a Finalis and begin to devise a plan to capture her and sell her. She overhears them and decides to confront them. Just then, Sahmad and Ahmad come in and stop the men from attacking her, warning them it's a bad idea to think they can take down a Finalis on their own. The men flee for their lives. Ahmad cautions her that showing her red hair in this part of the world is dangerous. Sahmad reminds Morgiana that they met in Balbad when she struggles to remember them and calls them strangers. She explains she came hoping to find more Finalis like her, but is disappointed that there aren't any. Sahmad stops her as she tries to leave. Sahmad tells her there's an elder in the village where they're staying who might have information about the Finalis people. He adds that he and Ahmad are working with Sindria's archaeological team to learn about the Tauran people and their language found in dungeons, plus uncover other mysteries. Some kids in the village offer Morgiana caterpillars to eat, but she's too annoyed to take them. Ahmad eats everything for her. Morgiana praises Ahmad for his dedication to his research, and he replies it's the best use of his time right now. Sahmad takes Morgiana to meet the elder. When the elder hesitates to answer them, Sahmad tells him she's a friend of Sinbad. The elder comes out and speaks with her, informing her that the Finalis can still be found at a place called the Great Rift, where the Dark Continent divides. He warns her that no one who has ever traveled there has returned. Later that night, Sahmad offers Morgiana some food. She remarks that they seem different now. Sahmad credits Alibaba for helping them finally find where they belong, and it isn't on a throne. Morgiana decides she will visit the Great Rift to meet her people, insisting she'll return no matter what because she is strong. The next day, Sahmad and Ahmad accompany her to where her journey begins. She starts by jumping into a valley that looks like it has no bottom. She calls upon her household vessel to help her climb down. After a long time of descending, she gets tired and decides to take a drink of water. As she continues her descent, and the valley seems endless, she starts to panic. Haunting memories from her past flood her mind, causing her to lose her grip on the chains, and she falls. Luckily, she only drops a few meters and lands on the ground. Everything around her is dark, so she uses her ability to sense sound to figure out which direction to go. Determined not to stop no matter how far it is, she starts running toward the light and finds a small house. A young man steps out, calls her name, and tells her he has been waiting for her. He offers her tea, which Morgiana says she enjoys. The man introduces himself as Yunnan, the guardian of the forest. Morgiana asks how he knows her name, and he explains that he heard it when his friends were bidding him farewell before he climbed down. He adds that he can hear everything happening in the valley from all directions. He confirms there are Finalis on the other side of the valley, but warns that once Morgiana gets there, she won't be able to return because he can only take her there and not bring her back. Yunnan informs Morgiana that a great war is about to hit the world. Meanwhile, in Magnostat, someone whispers something to Prince Kua, and he looks shocked to hear it. The leader of Magnostat suggests he go home and that they should postpone negotiations. Kuha tells him that the Ku Empire will invade Magnostat soon. As he leaves the city, Aladdin calls out to him, and they have a conversation. Kuha says he would have loved to hang out, but he has to deal with some issues back home. Yunnan tells Morgiana that the Emperor of the Ku Empire has died, and this grim news might bring chaos. Lady Hakwe returns to the Ku Empire with her Kuga army. She tells them they are part of her household and number about 100 men. Prince Kume asks about Hakuryu, and she informs him that he will arrive soon. Hakuryu arrives riding a monster plant, and Hakwe doesn't seem pleased to see this. At that moment, General Commander Lord Kuin walks in. Lord Kuin tells Hakuryu he's done well by conquering a dungeon, even after losing an arm. He mentions they'll only meet with the Emperor when everyone is there. Judel watches from a distance. Princess Kujioku says she needs to talk to her brother Kuin and try to persuade him not to invade Sindria when he becomes Emperor. She instructs her aides to wait outside while she talks to her brother. Kakubun narrates how he met the princess 17 years ago and was assigned to be her bodyguard. He recalls that she was in bad shape when they first met, but he didn't give up on her because he intends to use her as a stepping stone to reach ultimate power. He adds that the Emperor's death has given him a chance to win Lord Kuin over and achieve his goals. Princess Kujioku notices that Lady Hakwe is already with Lord Kuin, so she hides near the office and listens to their conversation. Lord Kuin asks to speak with Hakuryu. He questions whether Hakuryu would want to be the new emperor. Hakuryu asks why he would ask that. Lord Kuin explains that he would hate to go to war with his brother when he becomes emperor, power, as there can only be one king. He elaborates that the world only needs one king, just like it was in the earlier ages. He continues, stating that findings from the dungeons show the world used to be united with a single language, the Tauran language. When the world split into different languages and ideologies, people began to fight each other, leading to their eventual demise. He argues that to prevent this from happening again, one king must rule the world. He pleads with them to lend him their power to achieve his goal. Kujioku seems surprised when Lord Kuin calls her to reveal herself. She admits she overheard everything and worries about how to convince him after such a speech. The princess feels her ears ringing and doesn't realize the Lord had been calling her name. Lord Kuin informs them that their brother Kua has returned, and it's time to visit their father on his deathbed. On their way, Hakue agrees with Lord Quen's ideology, as it's similar to the previous emperor's beliefs. Hakuryu says he'd like to talk to her after they finish the visit. Hakuryu and his siblings visit their father on his deathbed. He looks at their mother, Ren Gyokwin, with disgust, recalling how she was involved in the execution of their father and brothers. Gyokwin pleads with Kuin, saying he is her most beloved son and asks for his support. One of the priests announces it's time to read the late king's will. To everyone's surprise, it's revealed that Ren Gyokwin will be the next ruler of the Ku Empire. This sparks chaos as some men argue that she isn't fit to rule. Gyokwin insists it would be unreasonable to relieve Kuin from his duties as general commander during such a critical time. She adds that she will be the interim emperor until the continent stabilizes. People disagree, and Princess Hakue urges her mother to reconsider. Before things escalate further, Hakuryu steps up, supporting the decision, claiming there's no one better to take the throne than her. All the priests present agree. Hakue confronts Hakuryu, asking why he supports this decision. He explains he wants to sever the bond between their mother and Kuin, revealing that she took part in the execution of their father and brothers, and he wants revenge on her. He asks Hakue to help him destroy their mother and the Althaemen organization that backs her. Hakue disagrees, arguing that a civil war would only divide the empire further and hinder their goal of uniting the world. Hakuryu counters that world unity isn't possible and is just an excuse for invading others' lands. Hakuryu reflects on what his sister said. Judel interrupts and tells him he needs to talk to her. Hakuryu refuses, saying he's just a pawn for the Althaemen and his mother. Judel acknowledges Hakuryu's newfound power and mentions someone he'd like him to show it to. Their mother joins them with priests in tow, attempting to touch him, but he slaps her hand away. She reveals that when his brothers were executed, she didn't care about him or Hakue at all. Anger fuels him, and he transforms into his Djinn equip, attacking her, but she easily deflects his attack and sends him crashing into the walls. She approaches him, commanding him to be her adorable little boy for the rest of his life. Kuin has a private meeting with his brothers. They inform him that the Althaemen organization has changed its operations and is unprecedentedly taking on leadership roles. Keisha reports that Magnestadt has refused to cooperate and has been mass-producing magical tools. Kuin warns them that confronting a nation with such magical powers will be terrifying, and they need to be cautious of countless unknown enemies ahead. Hakuryu sits in the rain, looking dejected. Judel approaches and whispers that while he can dislike his mother, if he ever feels like disliking his destiny, he'd be willing to help him. In Magnestadt, the students celebrate their final exams with a party. Lady Myers speaks to them, expressing her pride in their survival through the first year. She announces that only Aladdin and Sphintus have advanced to the second year, and predicts that Aladdin will be named the best student. The next day, during the graduation ceremony, one of the masters announces that he will reveal the names of the top students. To everyone's shock, a young man named Titus Alexius is named the top student, while Aladdin is overlooked. One student protests, claiming Aladdin deserves the award. The master explains that while Aladdin is indeed a brilliant student with fusion magic skills, Alexius has outperformed him in every way. As Alexius walks down the aisle to accept his award, Aladdin notices a swarm of white rooks hovering around him. Sphintus tells Aladdin that he hopes to share a room with him when they are assigned new accommodations. Aladdin agrees and informs him that the promoted students will receive second-level citizenship in Magnestadt. One student draws attention to the bullying occurring from Titus and his group, who bully some girls and force them out of the most spacious and decent room in the school. While this is happening, Titus spots Aladdin staring at him from the crowd and approaches him. Sphintus tells Aladdin that Titus is a prince, and his family controls the Senate of the Reims Empire. Titus expresses his desire for Aladdin to be his friend, noting they are both talented magicians, and offers his hand. Aladdin responds by touching his chest, saying he just wanted to confirm if he was a girl because of his looks and shape. This infuriates Titus, who starts to choke him. A man and his aides watch the scene from a distance and suggest setting up a battle between Aladdin and Titus. As they approach, the students bow when they see the man. Sphintus tells Aladdin that the man is Chancellor Maidel Mogamet, the director of the academy and leader of Magnestadt. Mogamet pats Aladdin on the head, saying he reminds him of his grandson. One of his aides announces there will be a battle exam between Aladdin and Titus, where the winner will receive a personal instructor and the loser will get no training. On the day of the battle, both Aladdin and Titus receive their battle instructions. The battle starts, and everyone is surprised to see them using their gravity magic to fly and fight in the sky. Aladdin hits Titus with his signature attack, and Sphintus thinks the match is done, but Titus Titus comes out unharmed. Aladdin then uses his gravity magic to manipulate sand and shapes it into a giant figure that resembles Hugo. The giant delivers several strikes to Titus, but he protects himself. Eventually, the giant lands a hit, which allows it to grab and smash Titus's shield, but the giant figure gets destroyed in the process. Titus appears pleased by this and tells Aladdin that his magic is too simple and easy to predict. Titus then summons a deadly magic attack. He sends it toward Aladdin, who manages to dodge it, but the impact creates shockwaves throughout the arena. Lady Myers informs the students watching from the stands that Titus is using aberrant magic. She explains that this type of magic commands the Rook to forcefully create catastrophic natural disasters. Mogamet elaborates that this magic operates on principles similar to a volcanic eruption and can have deadly consequences. While the magical strikes overwhelm Aladdin, he summons the last of his strength, using sound magic to throw attacks at Titus, who manages to shield himself. Using his martial arts skills, Aladdin lands multiple blows on Titus and finally breaks through his shield. Before Titus can counterattack, Aladdin charges at him, hoping to stop him, but they both tear each other's sleeves off, revealing the magical tool on their arms. Aladdin is shocked to see that Titus also possesses the same magical tool that helps disguise him as a magi, and he wonders if Titus is a magi like him. They continue to fight, but Chancellor Mogamet intervenes and calls the match a draw. He informs them that they will both receive a personal instructor because they performed well. Aladdin asks Titus to show himself so he knows he isn't alone in school. Titus disagrees and tries to attack Aladdin. Chancellor Mogamet quickly steps in to stop the attack, but the force of it knocks Aladdin unconscious. While Aladdin lies unconscious in bed, his friends keep him company. Sphintus mentions that Titus has been put in solitary confinement for breaking the rule against personal attacks. Aladdin dreams of a great nation ruled by King Solomon, where a lady praises him for uniting the world despite their religious and tribal differences. In the dream, he sees a terrible disaster strike the nation, wiping out everyone. Aladdin wakes up and thinks that the destruction he saw in his dream was caused by hatred between magicians and non-magicians, and he feels the need to prevent that in the real world. He wonders if Titus is in Magnestat on a similar mission. Titus uses his magical tool to communicate with Lady Scheherazade and explains what he's done. Lady Scheherazade advises him to focus on his mission and not let what happened get him down, so they can help protect the Reem Empire. Titus visits Aladdin in his room. He apologizes for his behavior and asks about Aladdin's wounds. He reveals that he is a magician sent by Lady Scheherazade to secretly come to the country of Magnestat. He explains that he serves under the Magi of the Reem's Empire and that the magical stone in his arm allows him to communicate with Lady Scheherazade. He asks Aladdin to tell him about himself. Aladdin shares that he is a magi from the country of Sindria. Titus doubts his story and questions why Aladdin has limited access to the Rook, unlike other magis. Aladdin explains that the magical stone in his arm restricts his access to the Rooks. Titus mentions that he knows King Sinbad and that Lady Scheherazade told him Sinbad would want to unite the kingdoms of Sindria and Reems. Aladdin suggests that since they share a mission in Magnestat, they should become friends and help each other. Titus dismisses the suggestion and leaves. The next day, Aladdin, Sphintus, and Titus decide to tour the country. Sphintus informs Aladdin that as second-class citizens, they now can visit different parts of the town. Sphintus asks why Titus is with them. He replies that he and Aladdin have promised to help each other with important missions. They enter the city and are amazed by the number of magical tools that power it. They fly over the city to check out these tools and find that they use magic to assist in producing crops and growing food. They stop at a restaurant to eat. Aladdin wonders why everything in the city relies on magical tools. Sphintus explains that the city is impressive because, in his hometown, they use slaves for every task. He tells Aladdin that Magnestat is divided into 5 citizenship levels based on magical ability. He adds that everything a person does in the country depends on their citizenship level, and non-magicians are called Goi. Titus spots a cat and can't help but stare in awe. Sphintus tells him it's not unusual. They visit a shoe store where the sellers treat them like royalty. As they leave, Aladdin expresses that something feels off in the country, and the way non-magicians fawn over the magicians is concerning. Titus notices a baby and starts playing with him, marveling at how people live. Aladdin questions why Titus is so touched by simple things. Aladdin asks some men for directions to the 5th district, mentioning they've been to the other districts. The men warn them against it, saying the district is a dumping ground for failures. When they return to school, Aladdin reads about the different classes of citizens. The top tier includes academy directors and intermediate magicians. The second tier consists of second-year students and ordinary magicians. The third includes people with magician parents and gois in the army. The fourth tier is ordinary citizens, and the 5th tier consists of citizens who can't pay taxes. Aladdin asks an instructor about the location of the 5th district, but she says that information can only be shared after he completes the required ideology classes. Titus shares his tour experience with Lady Scheherazade, including everything he saw. She advises him to stay focused and not let distractions prevent him from completing his mission. Titus sneaks into Aladdin's room, wakes him up, and persuades him to visit the 5th district. He mentions that he doesn't know the location of the 5th district yet, and to find it, they need to infiltrate the Unis district. Titus uses his light-bending magic to disguise their appearance, and with Sphintus, they head to the Unis district. Once there, they can't enter because of a barrier spell. An instructor arrives and almost reveals their presence, but Sphintus quickly casts a spell that sends the instructor to sleep. They take the barrier pass from the instructor and enter the Unis district. They break into the Unis district library. Inside, they learn that most of Magnastadt's population lives in the 5th district. They find out the location and head there. Upon arrival, they discover it's an underground dam city. The locals are surprised to see such powerful magicians in their district. Suddenly, Titus's light-bending magic stops working, and they revert to their normal looks. They also notice that the Magoi in their bodies, along with those of other citizens, is leaking out much faster here. They spot a little girl collapsing and decide to help her. After reviving her, the girl, named Marga, tells them she recently lost her mother to a cold, and all her Magoi has left her body. The locals are amazed to see magicians helping them. Aladdin wonders why Magoi is leaking from everyone. An elder explains that the district is a Magoi production facility, and the leaking Magoi powers magical tools in other districts. Aladdin asks why they aren't doing anything about it. A young man jumps in, insisting they leave them alone because they are happy with the current situation. The elder informs them that Marga has a heart condition and probably won't live longer than 2 years. Titus asks Marga what she wants to do. She shares that she wants to study to become a scholar or a doctor to have a chance to see the outside world. Aladdin uses his sand magic to create a simulation of the outside world, making her happy. Titus encourages her to hurry and become a scholar so she can experience the real world. Aladdin offers to come with his friends every day to teach her, but she prefers they visit and tell her about the outside world instead, because she might not live long enough to become a scholar. The elder thanks them for visiting and mentions that their situation is better than it was during Mustasim's reign, but he doubts it will be the same for the next generation. Titus tells them he will be taking Marga back to the outside world. The young man warns that anyone trying to escape the district is sentenced to death and thrown into the hole. Titus volunteers to take everyone and fly them away. Just then, they hear the barrier open, and the elder alerts them that the magician patrol comes every day to count the people. Aladdin and his friends hide from the magician patrols. Titus warns that they will be expelled if caught, and that they need to find a way to get through. The patrol completes their head count and sees no one is dead or sick. As they leave, Marga collapses. The patrol leader orders that she be thrown into the hole. The elder pleads for her life, claiming she is still young and was unfortunate to be born into such a place. The man ignores him and tosses Marga into the hole. Titus and Aladdin jump in to save her. Titus saves the girl, and Aladdin uses his magic to bring them back to the surface. The patrol leader is informed that they are students who haven't taken the ideology test. Titus creates a path to the surface. The patrol leader declares that anyone who tampers with the Magoi production facility will be sentenced to death and attacks Titus. Titus can't dodge the attack because he's low on Magoi. Sphintus rushes to him and uses his magic to revive him. The patrol leader throws a large number of people into the hole, claiming they've defied a magician and broken Magnastadt's rules, so their punishment is death. Aladdin uses his wind magic to stop them from falling and drops them back on the surface. The patrol leader says he's heard their big shots at the school, but warns it would be a bad idea for them to fight him. Sphintus responds that he'll defeat him and create a path for the people to escape the district. He urges Aladdin to join him in the fight, saying Aladdin came to the country to sweep away its darkness. Aladdin remembers that his reason for visiting the country was to prevent non-magicians and magicians from hating each other. Lady Myers arrives and stops the patrol leader. She advises Aladdin to stand down and surrender, as she'd hate to battle him. Aladdin, in handcuffs, kneels before the Chancellor. The Chancellor asks if he did what they've accused him of. Aladdin admits he infiltrated the 5th district. The Chancellor urges the patrol and everyone present to forgive Aladdin, saying he doesn't understand the truth yet. He requests to speak with Aladdin privately. The Chancellor asks Aladdin about Yamraiha's well-being. Aladdin panics at this. The Chancellor assures him he means no harm and tells Aladdin that Yamraiha is one of the best magicians he knows. He recalls reading her stories before bed when she was at the academy. Aladdin wonders why a kind man like the Chancellor would invade towns and treat people harshly. He concludes there might be other powers at work, not the man himself. The Chancellor tells Aladdin to attend the next day's lecture if he wants to learn more about the country. The next day, Aladdin sits next to Sphintus and Titus, informs him they've been granted permission to visit the 5th district as they wish, because Titus kept pestering the director. Everyone is surprised to see the Chancellor himself will be giving the lecture. The Chancellor begins by telling them they're a different breed of people from their loved ones. He explains that magicians are born to use the great power of the Rook to manipulate the world. He states that the greatest empires in the world are all ruled by non-magicians. He then projects their memories of the Mustasim kingdom from 70 years ago. The memory shows young Mogamet saying goodbye to his daughter, who begs him not to overwork himself and end up like her mother. Chancellor Mogamet explains that back then, magicians served the royal family, who forced them to use their magic until their Magoi was completely drained, which led to his wife's death. One night, his daughter asks why magicians are born to serve non-magicians. She adds that if her mother had been an ordinary woman, she wouldn't have lost her life. Young Mogamet tells her that magicians are born to improve the world because magic can save lives. He shares that magicians spent their free time researching and studying magic, making impressive progress. The kingdom decided to reward their hard work with noble titles, which made them happy since their efforts were finally recognized. He tells the students that at that time, he didn't understand the fundamental difference between a magician and a non-magician. He calls on Aladdin, Sphintus, and Titus to share what they saw in the 5th district. Titus responds angrily that they are oppressed people with their Magoi being drained away. Chancellor Mogamet counters that non-magicians love their lifestyle, seeking only to drink and enjoy idle bliss, and they're no different from livestock. He adds that the only difference between them and animals is the desire to dominate. Titus replies that magicians also crave to dominate. Mogamet responds that magicians only seek knowledge, which is why magicians in the past never founded a kingdom. He continues, saying that 3 years after the magicians were elevated to nobility, a pandemic broke out that magic couldn't cure, and they were blamed for it. The king tortured and imprisoned them, and the survivors fled to a small school where they researched and developed their magic. He adds that a war broke out between the kingdom and the Parthian Empire, and the king demanded their help. They won the war, but many magicians, including his daughter, lost their lives. After the war, he observed non-magicians celebrating and mocking them for being so easily manipulated, and that's when he realized that only magicians can bring balance to the world. Mogamet mentions that they decided to create a country ruled by magicians, and to make that happen, they chose to support the people's crude and lustful desires. The people's support swung back to them, allowing them to manipulate those who crave power. A civil war broke out, and the king was overthrown. In his thoughts, Aladdin finally realized that Mogamet was the one who sparked the conflict that drove Dunya out of her homeland. Titus confronts Mogamet, accusing him of just making himself king of the country. Mogamet argues that it's the people who want him to be king. Titus presses him about the 200,000 non-magicians in the 5th district, who constantly have their Magoi drained, and Marga, who only have about a year left to live. The chancellor responds that the only reason he wants to save the little girl is that she reminds him of himself, and it's purely for his own satisfaction. Aladdin also defends the little girl, stating he wants to save her just as much as Titus does, and that it's absurd to keep draining people of their Magoi. The chancellor retorts that the mortality rate in the 5th district has drastically lowered compared to the Mustasim reign, suggesting they're doing them a favor since wanting to enjoy magic without putting in the work has always been their goal. One of the students expresses discomfort with the idea of locking non-magicians away from the outside world because his parents are non-magicians. The chancellor reassures everyone, telling them there are non-magicians who live above ground and contribute to the country. He goes on to say that magicians and non-magicians are different breeds, and it's right that the more intelligent breed rules over them. He adds that he wants to create a country where most people live happily, and where magicians are treated justly. Later that night, the students got together to discuss the chancellor's lecture. Sphintus says his parents are magicians and they're treated unfairly in their country. Another student mentions that magic is considered taboo in her country, and that everyone, including her parents, thinks her powers are weird. They talk about the people in the 5th district, with one saying it's better to live there than in the slums. The group of students decides to visit the 5th district. The chancellor says he'll join them for the visit, and gives Titus permission to take Marga outside and keep her with him. The chancellor tells Titus that he knows he's working for Lady Scheherazade. Aladdin reassures Titus, saying he found out about him and Yamraiha too. The chancellor tells them that Yamraiha and Scheherazade are two unfortunate girls who could lose their lives trying to protect a foreign land. He adds that what they're doing in Magnustat with a wide range of magicians and magical tools can't be matched by individual skills, otherwise they'll lose their lives. He says his wish is to bring magicians from all over the world together to live in happiness. On their way to the 5th district, Aladdin wonders if something is off about the chancellor, even though he seems kind. They reach the district, and the chancellor picks up Marga and hands her to Titus. On their way back, a little boy grabs the chancellor's robe and pleads with him to take him outside, but he kicks the boy away like an animal. Aladdin helps the boy up and finally realizes that the chancellor sees non-magicians as animals. Marga seems excited to be outside. She plays with a cat for the first time and thanks Titus for bringing her out. She gives him a hug. Aladdin asks Sphintus what he thinks of the chancellor. He agrees with his ideas about creating a magician's country, but not with how he treats non-magicians like livestock. Later that night, Marga tells Titus that she doesn't want to be a burden to him, and she feels like she won't live long enough to see everything in the outside world. Titus reassures her that everything will be alright, and that he will always be there for her. The chancellor and some magicians perform magical healing on Marga to prevent her sickness from worsening and to extend her lifetime. Aladdin and Titus discuss their plans for the 5th district. Aladdin says he can't wait, but he hasn't done anything about it and hasn't completed his mission in Magnustat. Titus says the same goes for him. Their new instructor, Lady Irene, tells them she will be teaching them about Rook's properties and alterations. Aladdin gets excited and offers to shake her hand, but she smacks his hand away. She claims to dislike extravagant people but secretly envies Aladdin for having tea with the chancellor, something she can only dream of. She then shows them the dark Rook they are working on in the lab. She informs them they will be focusing on the dark Rooks for the class. She explains that, unlike the white Rook, the dark Rook can be easily manipulated and used to create artificial life forms, a discovery made about 12 years ago. Aladdin mentions that the dark Rook is a Djinn. Irene notes that he seems to know a lot more about the dark Rook, and that they need to keep an eye on him just like the chancellor has instructed. Aladdin confronts her, accusing Magnustat of collaborating with the Althaman organization, which is causing the world's anomalies. Irene ends the class and walks away. Sphintus reports to Lady Scheherazade about the magical tools Magnustat has been producing. She states that she won't be intimidated by their magical tools. Marga walks in and interrupts their conversation. Lady Scheherazade asks who it was, and Titus replies that it was the girl he saved from the 5th district. He informs her that the Chancellor has given them a nice house with a lovely view of the city. Lady Scheherazade responds that she hasn't forgiven him for the incident, and that he should focus on his mission and not be distracted. The next day, Sphintus, Aladdin, Titus, and Marga all hang out and explore the town. Later that night, they say goodbye to Aladdin and Sphintus and head to their room. Marga thanks Sphintus for giving her a chance at life. She promises to do all his chores, and in about 5 to 10 years, when she's grown, she will pay him back. But he must promise to stay with her always. Titus hugs her and promises to stay with her forever. Titus visits the Chancellor late at night and, through tears, tells him he doesn't want to die yet. Titus tells the Chancellor that he doesn't have much longer to live. The Chancellor is shocked to hear this and rushes towards him. He informs Titus that there are cures for various human diseases and that they can help him. Titus replies that those won't help him because he's not human. He's a puppet created by Lady Scheherazade. He explains that he is a clone made from Lady Scheherazade's flesh and bone, designed to serve the Reem Empire. He adds that he spent 14 years in isolation and was only recently allowed to leave and visit a place as dazzling as this. Titus tells the Chancellor he has only 1 month left to live and is filled with unbearable hatred for being born this way. The Chancellor consoles him and tells him not to speak like that. Lady Scheherazade takes control of Titus's body and communicates with the Chancellor from Reims. She tells him that Titus and she share the same rook and are of the same life. Lady Scheherazade instructs the Chancellor to surrender Magnestat to Reims to avoid a war. The Chancellor refuses, asserting that he won't be ruled by empires led by non-magicians. The lady responds that he is making a mistake since they lack the military power to confront Reims or the Ku Empire. She requests that he return Titus to avoid being swept up in the war. The Chancellor refuses to give him back and proceeds to destroy the magical stone that connects them. He tells Titus that he is like a son to him and that he shouldn't say such depressing things again. Overwhelmed, Titus bursts into tears. The Chancellor gathers all the magicians and informs them that they will go to war with the Reim Empire. The following night, he tells Aladdin what happened with Titus. He reveals that the war was unavoidable because Lady Scheherazade's demand for Titus is just a pretext. Her real reason is that she doesn't want Magnestat to fall under the Ku Empire. Aladdin asks why they have access to the Dark Djinn and if they are working with the Althaman organization. The Chancellor explains that a man named Ithnan approached them 12 years ago, offering knowledge of the Dark Rook, claiming it would help them overthrow the tyrannical rule of non-magicians. Together, they created jinns and dark metal vessels. He tells Aladdin that they are no longer in contact because Ithnan provides power to non-magicians, with Dunya being one of them. He also clarifies that the magical tools used by pirates, bandits, and others were sold to them to raise money for the country. He pleads with Aladdin for their assistance in the fight. The magicians all agree and promise to fight for their country and families. Titus collapses to his knees, saying that he is the reason for the war. Lady Myers approaches him, reassuring him that they will save him. Titus responds that they have no chance against the Reim Empire because they have 3 metal vessel users: Nerva Julius, the Emperor's son; Ignatius Alexius, the supreme commander of the Reim Empire; and Mu Alexius, leader of the Finalis Corps. In Reims, Lady Scheherazade instructs Nerva and Ignatius to retrieve Titus, but Mu interrupts, insisting that the Finalis Corps can handle it. Nerva calls the Finalis Corps ex-slaves, who taunt him. One of the Corps members thanks Mu for saving them from slavery and giving them a chance at life. Mu responds that he could not have done the same without the Alexius name. They vow to fight for their country. In Sindria, Jafar informs Sinbad that Magnuhaz has declared war on Reims, ceasing all diplomatic negotiations. In response, Reims has deployed troops to attack them. In the Ku Empire, Prince Kua states that Reims has no right to invade a country that doesn't belong to them but to their empire. Unrest grips Magnestat as everyone prepares for battle. Citizens question the decision to go to war with Reims. Student magicians panic, claiming they're powerless against Reims. First-class magicians reassure them, asserting they have the power to defeat Reims. Titus informs his friends that he is now a first-class magician from Magnestat. Aladdin asks if this means he's switched sides and if he can fight against Lady Scheherazade. Titus shoves Aladdin, saying he despises him and was wrong to think they were alike. Aladdin calms him, stating that Reims is not the real enemy and that the true enemy remains out there. He promises to find it. Chancellor Mogamet addresses the magicians, delivering inspiring words as they prepare for battle. The troops from Reims are traveling on many ships to attack Magnestat. Lady Scheherazade uses her magical powers to address the magicians of Magnestat. She states that Magnestat has attacked their territory and kidnapped Titus, a son of the Alexius family, which has led them to decide to launch an attack on the country. She orders the magicians to drop their wands and surrender. When she receives no response, she commands her troops to charge. Sphintus urges Aladdin to help Titus at the front lines, but Aladdin declines, saying he needs to stop the director's power or everyone will die. The troops rush at the Magnestat army, but are halted by a barrier that Mogamet claims is impossible to break through. The troop commander instructs them to push through with their spears and not to retreat. The magicians respond by summoning a monstrous plant that tears the Reim troops apart. The troops are utterly powerless against this, being completely overwhelmed, even as the commander tells them to stand firm. Irene and the other first-class magicians arrive and unleash acid rain on the Reim forces. Lady Myers and her group of magicians appear in the sky, declaring themselves the shield that will protect the inhabitants of Magnostat. The Magnostat army is relieved to have the magicians fighting for them. The Chancellor states that as long as the first-class magicians have enough Magoi, they can never be defeated. He adds that each first-class magician possesses powers equal to a Raim squadron, ensuring they will not yield to any enemy. The commander wonders how they will breach the barrier. Lady Scheherazade inquires about the arrival of something from her aides, who respond that it is on the way. The commander again commands the troops to break through the barrier, but the magicians push them back. Lady Myers reassures the Magnostat soldiers that they will protect them and won't allow the Ream troops to touch them. The soldiers are thrilled to hear this and call the magicians esteemed magicians. Lady Scheherazade tells you, Ignatius, and Nerva that they won't need their metal vessels just yet for the war, because she plans to unleash the power of non-magicians against Mogamet and the magicians of Magnostat. The people of Reims arrive in hot air balloons and throw explosives at the barrier. Mogamet and the magicians are shocked to witness this. They have never seen anything like it happen without magic. Lady Scheherazade states that this is not magic, and Ignatius explains that about a year ago, the people of Reims discovered the power of science and have used it to create explosives that rival extreme magic. She had told Ignatius that the Reims Empire wouldn't rely on magic and metal vessels like other empires, wanting the people of Reims to be capable of standing up for themselves. Ignatius explains to Nerva that Lady Scheherazade empowered them to manage things independently and not depend on magic. The Ream troops launch their explosives at the barrier from the ground while simultaneously throwing them down onto it. The barrier starts to crack. Mogamet and the magicians are shocked to see this. Mogamet rants that non-magicians are incompetent and can't breach the barrier because they're meant to be controlled by magicians. Lady Scheherazade tells him he's wrong and that non-magicians can move forward on their own without the magicians' help. And even if they make mistakes, it doesn't matter as long as they keep moving. The Ream's army keeps bombarding the barrier with explosives until they finally destroy it and break into the town. Lady Scheherazade tells Lord Mogamet that she feels sorry for the non-magicians who have given up their ability to fight and left their fate in the magicians' hands. Lord Mogamet responds that they won't let the people down because they've developed weapons to defeat the Ream's troops and their forces. Aladdin and Sphintus check on the casualties from the war and see that they're all magicians. One of the dying magicians asks Aladdin to protect the city because they desperately need help, and then falls over and dies. Sphintus decides he will fight for Magnostat because the Reams are the ones to blame for invading the country. He also urges Aladdin to join him to help Titus. Aladdin heads off to help Titus at the war front. On his way, he thinks about how Titus was just like him when he came to this world, except he had Ugo with him. He spots a weapon made by Magnostat getting ready to launch at the Ream's troops. The weapon fires at the troops and wipes them out, causing a huge explosion that shakes the city. Lord Mogamet claims they've developed a weapon of mass destruction that surpasses human power. He orders another strike against the remaining troops, but the Finalis Corps stops it with massive rocks. Lady Scheherazade allows them to attack. Mu tells them to track down and destroy all Magnostat weapons. They overpower the entire Ream army in their own way. The magicians try to power up the weapon to fire at the Ream troops, but they run out of Magoi. One of the magicians warns against using more Magoi to power it up, saying it will endanger the people in the 5th district. Aladdin flies to the scene and destroys their Magoi pipeline. Mu and Titus engage in battle. Mu calls him a clone of Lady Scheherazade, which makes Titus furious, as he yells at Mu that he's human and won't lose to him so he can protect those he loves. Mu tells him he's a monster and can never be human. He attacks Titus and overpowers him. Aladdin arrives where Titus is surrounded by the Finalis. He assures Titus that they will always be his friends, regardless of whether he's human or not. Mu asks Aladdin what he hopes to achieve by approaching them. Aladdin replies that he wants to stop the tragic war. Aladdin removes the magical stone that prevents him from accessing unlimited Rook as a magi. The Rook swirls around him, but he's still not regaining his powers. Lady Myers and the other magicians arrive and surround the Finalis Corps. She suggests they all team up to fight the Corps and force them to retreat. Aladdin joins the magicians in battling the Finalis Corps. Mu states that they won't retreat until they take the major city, as they can't let the Ku Empire snatch Magnostat from them. Aladdin warns the Finalis Corps that their aggressive approach to taking over Magnostat could backfire. He explains that if they keep pushing too hard, they won't have any choice but to cling to their current mindset. Mu ignores him and commands the Corps to attack and seize the capital. A fierce battle erupts between the magicians and the Corps. The Corps tear through the magicians' shields and dodge their attacks effortlessly. Lady Myers notes that they must stop the Finalis Corps from advancing to the barrier, or they could risk losing the city. Aladdin suggests recreating the initial barrier, but Lady Myers insists that creating one of that quality will take time. Aladdin and the magicians start firing randomly at the Corps, causing destruction around them. The Corps try to navigate the shattered ground, but Aladdin strikes the rocks, directing the river toward their path, completely submerging them. They attempt to swim out, but Lady Myers electrocutes them before they can escape. The Rook envelops Aladdin, filling him with more Magoi than he can handle. Mu and 2 other members of the Finalis Corps decide to confront the magicians and break through the barrier themselves. The magicians launch attacks at them, but they easily evade every hit. They use their household vessels to counterattack, gaining the upper hand. Lady Myers informs the magicians that they're employing strength magic of type 8, which is tough to counter. Mu teams up with the other Finalis to take down Lady Myers, but only one of them manages to strike. They charge at the barrier, launching numerous attacks until it starts to crack. Before they can break through, Mu, Aladdin uses his sand powers against them. He summons 3 massive giants from the sand. Everyone, including the Chancellor, is astonished, especially at how the Rook continually fills him with magoi. Aladdin states that he doesn't believe the Chancellor is worthy of being the king of the world, and that for Magnestat to align with the world, they need to cleanse their hearts of hatred. The Finalis Corps refuse to back down, throwing various attacks at the giants, but they prove ineffective. Aladdin sends out an intimidating flame attack at the Reem troops on the shore, hoping to scare them off. Lord Mogamed is impressed by Aladdin's level of power. Mu warns Aladdin that if he uses his powers to annihilate the Reem army, he'll be no different from Lord Mogamed. He adds that a magi should create, not destroy. The magic is left waiting to see what Aladdin will choose to do. Aladdin declares to everyone that he intends to end the war without causing any loss of life. Ali Baba wonders from the Reem ship why there are so many leaders and who initiated such a powerful attack. He recalls hearing from the Finalis Corps that Aladdin wouldn't be at the scene since most foreign students had gone home. He resolves not to interfere in the war unless Aladdin becomes embroiled in it. Mu asks Aladdin how he plans to stop the war without any casualties. Aladdin requests to speak with the Chancellor, urging him to protect the city alongside him once more. Mu commands the soldiers to attack and seize the city. Aladdin dismantles the giants, using the sand to push the Reem troops back to the shore while saving the soldiers from Magnostat. The Chancellor finalizes repairs to the barrier, restoring it to protect the city. Aladdin warns the Reem troops that if they continue their assaults, he'll keep forcing them back to the shore, no matter how many times it takes. Hearing this, the soldiers drop their weapons and give up on their attack. Aladdin urges the Reem troops to return to their city because the people of Magnestat hold their homeland dear and will never relinquish it. Mu appears dissatisfied with this and unsheathes his metal vessel. Mu summons his Djinn equip and completely transforms into Barbados. The other Finalis tell the troops to get ready to attack quickly once Mu takes out Aladdin and breaks through the barrier because he only has a minute before he runs out of magoi. Mu smashes through the barrier at lightning speed. He goes after Aladdin and sends him crashing to the ground. Aladdin tries to fight back, but Mu knocks him away with his staff. Before Mu runs out of magoi, he summons his extreme magic, which hits hard. Just as he's about to strike Aladdin, Ali Baba jumps in and defends him with Amon's sword. Mu runs out of magoi and turns back into his normal self. He tells Aladdin he can't believe he's the one who's going to stop him and thought he was there to help. Aladdin is shocked to realize that the one who just saved him is Ali Baba. The magicians breathe a sigh of relief to see they've been rescued. The Finalis Corps rush over to their captain, Mu. Mu's sister tells Ali Baba that he is now considered an enemy of the Reem Empire. Ali Baba replies that he couldn't just stand by and let them execute Aladdin because he means a lot to him. Everyone is surprised when Lady Scheherazade arrives on the scene. She orders everyone to pull back while she asks Aladdin if he is the Magi of Magnestat, to which he replies he is not. He urges Lady Scheherazade not to push the country to its limits, as the hatred they already hold could lead to a devastating outcome. After hearing this, Lady Scheherazade calls for a temporary ceasefire and instructs Mu to take the troops and everyone back to the ships, pointing out that the soldiers are badly injured. She asks to have a private conversation with Aladdin, Ali Baba, and Titus. The 4 of them chat on a small boat in a neutral spot. The Reem troops are confused as to why the lady isn't taking a side, while the magicians hope their discussion will lead to a compromise and a lasting ceasefire. On the boat, Aladdin and Ali Baba joke around. Aladdin says he was surprised when Ali Baba showed up to save him. Ali Baba teases him, saying he has grown taller. Aladdin stands on his tiptoes and measures his height with his hands. Lady Scheherazade chuckles at their playful banter. Titus is taken aback to see her in such a good mood since he's never seen her laugh before. Ali Baba tells Aladdin that he met Mu and the rest of the corps at the Colosseum, but he always avoids Lady Scheherazade, so she doesn't discover he is a metal vessel user with her magi powers. The lady replies that she wouldn't have noticed anyway since she's also a clone like Titus, and her real body is old and hidden somewhere no one can find in Reem. She shares that she is 268 years old, and they are all shocked. She then asks Aladdin to tell her what Mogamed is hiding. Back in Magnestat, Irene reports that 161 second-class magicians and 89 first-class magicians were eliminated during the battle. Aladdin shares his fear with them. He says the magicians of Magnestat harbor hatred in their hearts, possess a lot of magoi, and have access to the Dark Rook, all of which the Al-Thamin organization needs to recreate the tragic events that destroyed the previous world. He explains that there was once a world called Alma Toran, where everyone lived happily until Al-Thamin instigated a war that ended everything. He adds that King Solomon and the few survivors created a new world, and the Al-Thamin want to destroy it and create a chaotic world using dark spots that would consume all the White Rook in existence. He tells them this is the first time he's revealing this because he doesn't want to cause anyone worry. Ali Baba gets angry with him for keeping it to himself, smacks him on the head, and insists they will find a solution and face this challenge together. They return to the ship, and Lady Scheherazade tells Aladdin that she needs to discuss his request to stop the war with everyone on board to prevent the worst-case scenario. Aladdin asks to speak with Titus in the meantime, but she urges him to let her talk to Titus first. Lady Scheherazade informs Titus that he is free to go with Aladdin and Ali Baba. She mentions that Ali Baba reminds her of her first king candidate, a cheerful and kind general. She explains explains that her continued role as Magi after their deaths is to guide the Rame Empire toward becoming the best civilization for future generations. She sees Titus as her child and expects him to think and act like her, but realizes she's mistaken and apologizes. Titus responds that he should be the one apologizing for betraying her. Lady Scheherazade explains to Titus that even if the magicians help him keep his human form, they only have a short time to leave because the real Lady Scheherazade will pass away from old age in about a month. She tells Aladdin to inform Lord Mogamet that the war is over and they will retreat the next day. Suddenly, a soldier rushes in to report that the Ku Empire is advancing with 20 troops to attack them in Magnestat. Lord Mogamet reassures his magicians that he will take care of both the Rame and Ku empires. The magicians are all curious about what the Chancellor means when he says he will deal with the invaders. He heads to the 5 district, reminiscing about his younger days when he taught his fellow magicians about magic. He encouraged them to use their powers to protect non-magicians, even knowing the non-magician kings would push them into battles for their own gain. Yet, he still allowed his comrades to fight for those kings. Upon reaching the 5 district, the Chancellor finds the people kneeling and begging him to cut down on how much Magoi he takes from them, or else they will perish. They plead with him to help improve their situation, insisting that the magicians should live to protect the non-magicians. A little girl tries to hug him, but he shoves her, sending her crashing to the ground. The Chancellor declares he has no plans to save them and prioritizes the magicians instead. He lashes out, telling them he doesn't care how they die. He then levitates down the dam and enters a secret lab where he has been growing black djinns. His plan is to drain the 5th district's people of all their Magoi to bring the black djinns to life. To control them, he decides to fall into depravity and give up his access to the White Rook, knowing it will cost him his life. Lady Scheherazade tells Aladdin that Titus wishes to spend his final moments peacefully with Marga. Titus says he needs some time to decide how to use his last moments. Aladdin responds that he will wait if Titus chooses to fight with them. They notice a massive swarm of black rook flying over Magnestat, and 3 black djinns emerge from the city. Aladdin and Ali Baba rush to the city on their magic turban. Aladdin explains that the city learned to create black djinns from Al-Thaman. They are surprised to see the djinns ignore the Reem troops and attack the Ku Empire instead. Prince Kua and his forces get ready for battle. His maids suggest he use a palanquin to keep his hair from getting messy, but he ignores them, insisting he must lead the charge on Magnestat. He praises their efforts, saying he wouldn't have acquired information about Magnestat without them. His assistant Mayhao reassures him that victory is theirs for the taking. The prince orders his troops to charge at Magnestat. On their way, the 3 black djinns stop them with powerful fireballs that take out a large number of the Ku Empire troops. The prince summons his djinn equip and attacks the black djinns. He slashes them into pieces with his sword, but they immediately regenerate. He then unleashes his extreme magic to vaporize them. Lord Mogamet creates more black djinns and sends them to attack the Ku Empire troops. The exhausted prince tries to hold off the black djinns. His assistant Mayhao remembers when he captured the Laraj dungeon with his brother Kuen, but it was he who the djinn chose to wield her power. The reason is that Kuen already has 3 djinns at his disposal, and Kua often helps outcasts, giving them a chance to be by his side. Gathering the last of his strength, the prince cuts off the leg of a black djinn. Multiple djinns attempt to crush him, but Ali Baba, already in his djinn equip, strikes the black djinns. He summons his extreme magic to eliminate them all, but then Prince Kuen arrives with his aides Gakukin, Riseishu, Shui Kokutan, and Ensho, wiping out the black djinns. Prince Kuen's aides summon their household metal vessels, transforming them into giants. Aladdin and Ali Baba are shocked to witness this. The men charge through the black djinns, completely exterminating them. Ali Baba tells Aladdin he's seen a similar transformation in Balbad, but it doesn't compare to Prince Kuen's 4 aides. Aladdin notices they are draining rooks, along with Prince Kuen, and figures out they are household members of the prince. The prince approaches his brother Kua, apologizing for the huge losses suffered after he volunteered to lead the vanguard troops to attack Magnestat. Drawing his sword, he uses its healing power to mend Kuha's wounds. The prince orders Mayhao to lead the remaining vanguard troops to join the others in the mountains and await his commands. He also instructs them to gather the wounded for him to assist. Spotting Ali Baba and Aladdin floating in the sky, they come down, and Ali Baba introduces himself as the 3rd prince of Balbad. Some soldiers gossip that the Balbad princes were executed, while others say they escaped due to intervention from the 7 kingdoms. The prince's aides mention that he works for the kingdom of Sindria, making him an enemy of the Ku Empire. Ali Baba informs Prince Kuen that he came to the battlefield to help Prince Kua. One aide accuses him of lying, but another says it doesn't matter since they can't touch him if the prince acknowledges him. Kuen walks up, pats him on the shoulder, and thanks him for saving Kuha. The black djinns launch another attack on the Ku Empire troops. Mogamet asserts that, with the help of unlimited black rook, he can create countless black djinns, ordering them to annihilate everyone. The black djinns also take flight to assault the Reem troops. Lady Scheherazade is advised to hide, but she insists on defending the troops and taking out as many black djinns as she can with her last Magoi. The Finalis troops troops respond that they will fight alongside her until the end. One of the Finalis Corps asks about Titus, as they need every bit of manpower available. The Black Djinns attempt to breach the barrier, but Lady Scheherazade, with the support of the Finalis Corps, holds them off. One member of the Finalis Corps notices that Lady Scheherazade is running low on energy. She mentions that Titus has her last reserve of power and could have really helped her right now. She suggests they shouldn't pressure him, as he has just realized he has limited time left and will soon leave the people he cares about dearly. Amid tears, Titus explains to Marga that he doesn't have much time left and fears leaving her. Marga comforts him, saying her life has been vibrant since they met. She tells him that everything they've done together in their short time has added beauty to her life. She urges him to treasure the memories they've shared with her and their friends. Titus admits he's afraid to die, but she reassures him that doing what one loves is what makes life beautiful. She asks him to take her to where he's headed next. Titus takes her hand, and together they head into the 5th district. Lord Mogamet continues producing Black Djinns, commanding them to wipe out all the non-magicians, kings, and troops. Titus enters Mogamet's secret lair in the 5th district with Marga, shielding her with his light magic so her Magoi doesn't get drained. Lord Mogamet questions why Titus cares about the non-magicians, claiming the world would be better without them. He adds that helping non-magicians once brought him joy, but he's come to realize they have the most hideous of souls. Titus answers that he cherishes everyone, and will stop him so his friends don't lose their lives in battle. Titus forces his way into the barrier, protecting Mogamet by charging it with white rooks. He destroys the barrier and the furnace, producing the black rooks, but loses his life in the process. Immediately, the draining of Magoi from the people stops, and the Black Djinns vaporize. Lord Mogamet realizes the furnace has been operating on its own all along. The black rook gathers and transforms into a massive ball, draining Mogamet of all his Magoi until he perishes. The rook emerges, opening a portal in the sky that allows a strange-looking monster to enter their world. 2 Althaman men appear in the sky, welcoming the strange monster, wondering how its descent was possible. Their leader, Lady Gyoquin, explains that the Magoi accumulation in the 5th district increased the furnace's size, allowing their father, the monster, to descend easily. The Althaman organization welcomes its father into the world. Aladdin tells Alibaba that if the strange-looking monster gets into their world, it will be the end. He approaches Prince Quen and urges him to pull back his troops, warning that if he refuses, everyone will die. The prince's aide suggests ignoring what Aladdin is saying. Aladdin then summons all the Djinn from their metal vessels. Aemon explains that the hole in the sky must be closed at all costs, and they can't let the dark spot, which represents evil, enter their world. He adds that if it does, it will wipe out all life on Earth. The sun will turn black, and everything will be engulfed in darkness and void. The Djinn Laraj tells them their world will be destroyed just like Almatoran was. Another Djinn interrupts, saying it's taboo for people to know about other worlds. Aladdin asks Aman how they can stop the evil from coming through. Aman says the only way is to destroy the medium, which is the black rook crystallized into a ball. He explains that the entity in the sky needs the medium created by Althaman to enter. Aman warns them that it will be a tough battle. Prince Quen confronts Aladdin and pressures him to talk about the other world ruled by King Solomon. Aladdin promises to share if Quen helps stop the entity. Quen agrees and summons his siblings, Harkaryu, Kujoku, Kume, and Hakwe to join them. Kua asks if he really believes their stories. Quen replies that this is his chance to finally solve the world's puzzle and prevent unnecessary battles while uniting it. He tells Aladdin he'll lend him all the Ku Empire's metal vessel powers in exchange for all the information he needs. Aladdin wonders if Harkaryu will actually come. One of Kua's aides tries to explain how they send messages to their troops, but Kua cuts her off, telling her not to reveal their military secrets. The prince siblings receive the message and prepare to join the battlefront. Quen, Kua, and Aladdin summon their Djinn equip and charge at the medium together. Lady Gyoquin is told that the Ku Empire's metal vessel users have all left the city. She demands they ignore that and enjoy their father's descent instead. The medium sends multiple black Djinn into the city of Magnestat. The magicians protect the people and help them evacuate. Lady Irene expresses disbelief that their research led to this invasion. The magicians were completely helpless against the black Djinns, and they all ran for their lives. One black Djinn tries to crush a man and his family trapped under a rock. Lady Scheherazade intervenes and nearly loses her life in the process. Aladdin and Alibaba arrive at the scene and defeat the Black Djinn. Alibaba and Aladdin brainstorm ways to get the Black Djinns out of the city to prevent collateral damage from their metal vessels. Princess Kujoku uses her powers to pull the Black Djinns out of the city to a spot where they can be attacked more easily. Hakwe and Aladdin exchange pleasantries. He tells his brothers that Aladdin once saved him. Alibaba and Kujoku also greet each other since they are friends. Together, they fight back and eliminate the Black Djinns charging at them. Alibaba attacks the medium with Aemon's sword, but it doesn't help. He asks Aladdin what they can do to stop the medium from making more Black Djinns. Aladdin explains that the medium is a living being, and if they keep getting rid of the Black Djinns it's producing, he will run out of Magoi, causing the barrier around him to disappear. He mentions they need to take down about 10,000 more Black Djinns. Everyone looks exhausted and tells Aladdin they can't keep going. Prince Quen takes on the Black Djinns and takes out several at a time. He switches his Djinn equip and uses it to trigger volcanic eruptions. He powers up his metal vessel with the lava and decides to take on all 10,000 by himself. He keeps fueling his vessel with lava and strikes at the Black Djinns. Aladdin suggests they stop him to avoid hurting himself, but Kume says he won't listen because he doesn't care about his own safety. Aladdin believes Kuen is the kind of person who would get hurt to protect others. Kuen shouts at the black jinns that he will eliminate them all to talk to Aladdin. Kume tells the others Kuen is likely doing this to get information from Aladdin. Kuen calls Alibaba to help him out. Hakue explains to Aladdin that Kuen can't handle the jinn hordes alone, so he needs help from someone with a similar metal vessel. Kuen and Alibaba unleash their extreme magic to wipe out all the black jinns. They combine their extreme magic and hit the medium, causing a low damage impact. Kuen urges Alibaba to put in more effort and strike the medium again. This time, the medium explodes. The strike only makes cracks on the medium. Kuen realizes they can't destroy it with their extreme magic. He tells the others that the medium can no longer produce black jinns because the flame destroys them when they're created. He urges Alibaba to replenish his Magoi from the lava. Before they can reach the lava, the medium blocks off the source of the eruption. The medium swallows all the black djinns it's producing, transforming into a weird-looking monster. Everything the monster touches dies because it absorbs rooks from everything in its path. Aladdin suggests they redirect the medium away from the town to prevent it from taking the life of everything there. The medium tries to connect with the entity in the sky, but Alibaba charges at it and strikes. The medium repels the attack by hitting Alibaba, sending him crashing. Kuen tries the same but is also unsuccessful. Seeing this, Kujioku gets furious at the medium and launches her deadly attacks, surprisingly succeeding. She strikes again and finally slams it into the ground. Aladdin suggests they attack every part of the medium's body except for its hands, which it only uses as a defensive wall. Aladdin uses his sand magic to summon 3 giants. They blast the medium with flames. In retaliation, the medium squeezes them with its tentacles, smashing them into pieces and draining their rook. Lord Kuen tells Aladdin to stand down and orders Kume to take over. Kume uses his teleportation magic to transport his siblings. Hakue hits the medium with her tornado extreme magic, sending it into the sky. Kuha comes out of the portal and strikes it with his extreme magic. Kujioku finishes the move with her water extreme magic. Kuen and Alibaba watch from the ground, with Kuen healing Alibaba's wounds. Alibaba asks Kuen if Hakuryu will join the fight, but he responds that he's not sure Hakuryu will follow his orders. He urges Alibaba to join the others in the fight. They all attack the medium simultaneously, triggering an explosion that rocks the water. They believe they've overpowered the medium, but to their shock, it gets bigger by taking rook from the sea. They ask Aladdin if there's a way to destroy it since they can't use their extreme magic and are running low on Magoi. He tells them it's possible to destroy the medium, and that King Solomon, along with his 72 household members, destroyed it when it attacked their world. He adds that if they join forces, they can definitely take out the medium. The medium attacks Hakue, but Aladdin blocks the attack. Kujioku launches her water blades at the creature, but they have no effect. The creature stretches out its tentacles and grabs Kujioku, but Kua quickly cuts them off. The creature then grabs Kua, but Kuen swiftly cuts through its hands. Using his powerful magic, Kuen teleports a mountain and crashes it down on the creature, but it survives unscathed. The creature spreads out its tentacles, preparing to pull in the dark entity from the sky. Lady Gyeokwon claims that Aladdin is the reincarnation of King Solomon, whom she believes he sent to their world to ruin their plans, and she can't wait to meet him. She adds that, like her, he also served King Solomon in Almatoran, another world. Picking up her staff brings back memories of when she betrayed King Solomon in Almatoran. She declares that it's time for her and Aladdin to settle things once and for all. She explains that the reason they transformed into these beings is to witness the world turn pitch black and for all life to perish as revenge for King Solomon's arrogance. The creature pulls the entity closer into its world. Aladdin becomes frightened, thinking about the people he will lose. He shouts at the creature to stop. At that moment, a powerful lightning bolt strikes the creature, causing it to explode. Everyone stares at the sky in awe to see who launched the attack. To their relief, they discover it's King Sinbad, accompanied by multiple metal vessels and household vessel users from the Seven Sea Alliance. Aladdin spots Yamraiha and Dracon among them. Everyone readies their jinn equipped for battle. Sinbad tells Alibaba and Aladdin that they were informed about the situation thanks to 2 people. Yunnan appears, happy that they came to help in time. Alibaba exhausts his Magoi and loses consciousness, but before he hits the ground, someone saves him. He is surprised to see that his savior is Morgiana. Morgiana takes off to help attack the monster. Alibaba urges her to be careful not to exhaust her Magoi like last time, but Yunnan reassures him that she'll be fine. Yunnan explains that he has taught Morgiana to control her weapon better without using excess Magoi, and now she's turned the household vessel into an incredible weapon. King Sinbad states that the Seven Sea Alliance doesn't conquer nations or allow themselves to be conquered. They don't interfere in wars between nations, but when an uninvited guest tries to invade their world, they're ready to fight, no matter who it is. The Magnostat magicians save everyone injured in the 5th district. King Sinbad and the other users of the vessel keep attacking the medium, who protects himself. Mu uses his jinn equip to break through the barrier, barrier. Aladdin suggests they finish off the medium once and for all, but they are all running low on Magoi. Lady Scheherazade appears in the sky and tells them it's time for her to pass on. As a parting gift, she releases all her accumulated Magoi to them. She sends out Magoi to everyone as she disappears in a burst of light. All the metal vessel users use the Magoi energy within them to summon their extreme magic together. They unleash a massive attack on the medium, sending a cosmic wave across the land. They all transform back. Alibaba says there's no way anyone can survive such an attack from 13 metal vessels at once. To their surprise, the medium emerges in an even larger form. Lady Gyoquin laughs at their naivety, noting that it took 72 vessel holders to defeat the medium back in Almatoran. Mu feels sad because Lady Scheherazade gave them her last accumulated Magoi that allowed them to strike the medium, and now they have failed. They notice something strange about the medium. Yunnan sees a white rook in its body and informs them that there's someone's soul within the medium's accumulated rook that hasn't fallen into depravity. Titus cries for Aladdin, wishing he could come back. Aladdin tells Yunnan that the Chancellor is the one causing the medium's hesitation. He says he'll enter the medium's subconscious to speak with the Chancellor. Yamraiha asks to come along since the Chancellor is like a father to her. He agrees and summons Solomon's wisdom to take them to the subconscious. Judel observes everything from a distance. In the medium subconscious, they discover that the Chancellor was locked up and Titus's spirit was stopping him from falling into depravity. The Chancellor reveals that his hatred and selfishness have led him to cause the death of both magicians and innocent people. Aladdin apologizes for saying he isn't fit to be king of Magnustat. He pleads with him to come back and guide the people he once inspired. The Chancellor replies that he can't, as he has caused many to fall into depravity and can't abandon them now. Aladdin insists it's not his fault and that there's nothing he can do about it. The Chancellor asks him to find a way to turn the dark rooks back to white, so the souls of those who died of self-hatred can return to the white rook where their loved ones rest. He tells Yamraiha he's glad to see her again. Yamraiha explains that he kidnapped her from the palace when she was little and raised her, but he kept her ancestry from her. Lord Mogamet says he had to do what he did because she was a magician, and the royal family would have disposed of her. He apologizes, fearing she'll leave him if she finds out. Yamraiha bursts into tears, saying she was happy growing up with him. Aladdin adds that they could all keep striving because he filled everyone with hope. Upon hearing this, Lord Mogamet sheds tears, causing the medium to crack open and explode. He thanks Aladdin and requests that he tell the people of Mogamet that everyone is the same, whether magicians or not, and that no one is above the other because everyone makes mistakes. He bids them farewell and says he must leave. Yamraiha tries to run after him, but he stops her. The medium disappears, and the entity in the sky returns to space. Everyone rejoices at this sight. Aladdin wakes up to find Yamraiha crying beside him. Alibaba approaches and offers him his hand. They see Sinbad and Kuan facing off. Aladdin urges them to settle their differences. Kuan brushes him off, saying their goal is to claim Magnustat. Sinbad informs them that the Reem Empire has joined the Seven Sea Alliance, and that he will rebuild and claim the city of Magnustat, which belongs to the foster father of his subordinate Yamraiha. Kuan says he will claim Aladdin as retaliation. Lady Gyoquin tells the Althaman members that they should celebrate because they eliminated Lady Scheherazade, and when the next dark spot is complete, they can summon their father into the world again. One of the men says King Solomon may send back another clone of Lady Scheherazade. Marga wakes up and asks for Titus. One of the Finalis Corps informs Mu that Titus has been sent back to them. Marga, Sphintus, and Aladdin rush over and hug him.